approach to the quarterback battle, that's going to be the same as it was during OTAs and minicamp.
Yeah, nothing's really changed. We anticipate alternating. First of all 4 quarterbacks are going to compete. They all won't get equal reps. Obviously, we will alternate just like we did in the spring with Deshaun and Shedeur with the ones.
Now, when it comes to a timeline to decide a starting QB, Monken plans to have one in place by the start of the regular season. Reports say Grant Delpit agreed to a 3-year extension with the Browns. It runs through 2029. It's worth $48 million, $35 million of that guaranteed. The move comes after the Browns officially announced that Denzel Ward signed his 2-year extension. Reports say that's worth $62.2 million. Browns looking into the possibility of the return of Jadeveon Clowney. Reports say the defensive end who left the Browns on rather bad terms following the 2022 season was visiting Berea yesterday as the team had its first full practice. Clowney spent last season with Dallas and collected 8.5 sacks. Guardians last night, they beat the Reds 6-1. The Guardians snapped a scoreless tie with 4 runs in the top of the 5th. Guardians reclaimed the Ohio Cup after losing it to the Reds last season. Travis Bazzana, a pair of hits, including an RBI single that snapped the scoreless tie. Kyle Manzardo's solo run drove in 2. Joey Cantillo got the start, 4 scoreless innings, struck out 8. The Guardians bullpen allowed just 1 run over the final 5 innings. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next, after the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
The Afternoon Drive.
What's interesting is there's nobody that believes in Shedeur and Deshaun. This is very much an or conversation.
Oh, that is interesting.
It seems like everybody before a snap was taken in camp, everyone is either taken a pro Deshaun, which means you're anti-Shedeur, or vice versa.
This is what makes it so fun, though. It's like rooting for teams, almost. There's a game that's happening here. The game is Team Shedeur versus Team Watson. Everyone's chose a side, and there's a daily scoreboard, and we get to keep track of who actually wins this thing. And by the way, if Team Shedeur loses, then we get to go ahead and just say the game was rigged.
The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
It was 1950 in the cold and rain when my father took me to my very first game. Said the Browns are gonna show you how the game is played. Here we go again.
The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
Nothing's really changed. We anticipate alternating. First of all 4 quarterbacks are going to compete. They all won't get equal reps. Obviously, we will alternate just like we did in the spring with Deshaun and Shedeur with the ones. I mean, we're going to have a start of the first game, right? I mean, ultimately, I'm not going to decide who the starter is. They decide by their play. Their play decides who the starter is. I don't have any preconceived notions of how they played in the past or how they're going to play. I only can, with my eyes, judge. And guys got to play well around them. I think we've shored up some things up front. We've added some weapons on the perimeter, so I think that's going to help. But they'll decide who plays. I don't decide who plays. The players decide who plays.
This is Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
One practice in the books. Your quarterback stink. Hey, everybody, it's Anthony Lima. I've got Nick Padone. We're here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Oh, boy. We have our montages. We have our graphics, social media, the QBs, the trackers, all available for everybody, and football is back. And we are so excited to be with you on a Thursday. Owen is in. We got our private eye, John Colavita. I don't know if we have any investigations for him as of right now. Padone is in for Ken Carman. But football is back. Did you breathe it in? Do you feel like now that the pads are on, we had 11 on 11s yesterday. I've got our first team offensive line mapped out. I've got Coach Riz with, 5,000 words on the first day of practice.
Via text.
I've got it right here. How do you feel about things? Padone, are you feeling good?
I think we heard my feelings from Michael Stanley. They're right in the open. Back-to-back interceptions from Deshaun Watson in the first practice. Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again. Exactly right. Well, it looks like Deshaun Watson picked up where he left off every time we've seen him in a Browns uniform. You know, it was interesting. We played whatever was from his social media where he thought it was all coming together. It was all clicking. This was going to be a return of 2019 or whatever the heck from Deshaun Watson. And then basically it was the tidbit that went viral yesterday, really in all of the NFL, other than the injuries that happened in Cincinnati or elsewhere. Thank God, fingers crossed, looked like we made it through a day, because we have had first days, LaCharles Bentley. We've had first days over my era of watching Browns football that have been disastrous. So you avoided that, but basically the back-to-back interceptions. And I know I've already seen it with context. There's been context on the interceptions. I know I was watching Channel 3 yesterday. Camino and Rankel were like, well, the drill kind of stopped and guys were going somewhere. And then the other one, well, Denzel Ward made a terrific Denzel Ward play.
Paid him. He's trying to prove that contract. Lima, here's what you're also not factoring in. Here's more context to the interception.
Give me the context.
He's just got to knock off the rust, guys. Have we factored that in? There's, of course, going to be a little bit of rust when it comes to Deshaun Watson. And once he finally knocks off that rust, we'll be off to the races.
I'm going to go Nick Wilson then. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to do glass half. Is it, you have glass half full? Yes, glass half full.
Well, I think it's also half empty.
It's glass half. Your quarterbacks are probably going to stink this year.
It's glass half. Enjoy college football Saturdays this year.
I got to say, these quarterbacks, that's the thing. I'm watching, and I know there were clips yesterday of Patrick Mahomes' first throw.
Yeah.
And, all around the NFL. And we're having fun with it, right? We're supposed to have fun with what's going on because we don't know necessarily on a play-to-play basis what the coaches are looking for, what they're asking of their QBs. But at the very least, forget everything else. Deshaun Watson, I just wanted to see him, once over 6 years, look like a viable quarterback. And then we went right back to
Yesterday was not the day for that, man. And it's like...
When has been the day for that?
And we want to have fun with it. Yet at the same time, we have to cover this quarterback competition objectively. We can't sit here and sell people on false hope. And what we have to report this morning, after their first day of training camp, is the guy that hasn't been a good quarterback in the 6 years that he's been in Cleveland, in his very first practice, after a summer of talking about finally being healthy, literally threw back-to-back interceptions. That is true, honest coverage of this quarterback competition. That's not us having fun. That's not making fun of Deshaun. That's the cold, hard facts of what took place yesterday in Berea.
Well, so every year I ask the question of Browns fans, and I want to hear from anybody who, might have been able to check it out, might have been able to see online, 216-474-0092. Do you want me to be the overly positive guy? Do you want me to start the year fresh and not carry over, all the bad thoughts of yesteryear? Because, I can do that. I just feel like I wouldn't be honest.
Right. And we heard from Zach yesterday saying that when you watch Deshaun Watson play quarterback, this is from Zach Jackson of The Athletic, he's like, it's hard to forget the last 6. It's hard to turn over a new page and give Deshaun Watson this clean slate because it looks exactly how it's looked. So it's hard to forget everything bad that he's done when it looks exactly the same.
Well, so I guess I want to know from people, do you want us to honestly talk about the quarterbacks just in comparison to each other? Or do you want us to talk about them in the context of the rest of the league? Because obviously the prevailing wisdom is you have one of the worst, if not the worst, quarterback room in the league. If you want us to just compare them to each other, then yeah, all right, there were some positives yesterday from Shedeur Sanders. The throw to KC,
yep.
There's no pass rush. It looked like it was a practice throw. Looked great. It was not a real play. I can't really take a lot away from that and go, hey, when we get in the thick of things in week 1 against Jacksonville and it's 3rd down and 8 and they are pinning their ears back, does that look like football to you? Yesterday, no, it doesn't. It's just working on some things. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's good that he at least did something Deshaun Watson couldn't do.
Yeah, it was literally day one. You know, the rookies weren't even working with the ones. Like, they had DeJuan Jones at left tackle for a lot of the day. The receivers were working with the twos, both Concepcion and Boston. That's why Shador got a lot of work with the rookie receivers, because he was working with the twos yesterday. Today will be Shador's day with the ones. So if you're a big fan of that, tune in to Afternoon Drive. I'm sure they will have snap-by-snap coverage of what happens with Shador's big day out there on the practice field. But yesterday was Deshaun's day with the ones, and it wasn't great.
It was bad.
Like Dylan Gabriel got some time with the ones, you know, so they are cycling these guys through, but it is just really hard to talk myself into either of these guys when it's looked like what it's been, which is wildly inconsistent and not good enough.
So are you guys just going to spend this whole day and maybe this whole preseason being down on the Browns, being down on the quarterbacks?
I'm down on the quarterbacks.
Being down, because yesterday I listened to the station and I heard positivity oozing from the station. Nick Wilson says embrace the quarterback battle. I think we got to
Let's go.
it.
I want every Browns fan listening. I want you to give yourself permission to live and die with this. Because I think in the age of social media, a lot of people have gotten snarky about charting passes or watching videos on social media. I think we need to make this year about feeling good, about getting back to rooting for the Browns. And that might be complicated depending on who wins the quarterback job for you. Embrace the quarterback battle and have fun with Deshaun's interception machine. If Shador has a big touchdown, let's have some fun with this, because honestly, if we don't have some fun with this could end up being a really frustrating year.
And you do have to remind yourself, this little stretch for the next 6 weeks is probably going to be more fun than, let's say, week 13, if we're having discussions about, well, should they lose for draft positioning or should they try to win? And if they try to win, can they even accomplish that? We've done now 8 wins in the previous 2 seasons. We all know what week 13, 14 can look like on a really bad football team. Sometimes this little stretch here can be the best thing we have.
See, when I hear that, I really do sometimes have to wonder, like, what kind of city we are as a sports fan. I really have to wonder because, we can contrive fun things out of any season. Carson Schlesinger last year, he was fun.
Yeah, Myles Garrett, single season sack record.
Fun.
The 2019 Browns, when Monken was here, we're getting ready to talk a little Jadeveon Clowney. That team was bad. Like, that was the Freddie Kitchens year. That team produced bad results. But I'll maintain there were fun moments that happened in that season. You had the OBJ clown shoes. You had the OBJ watch. You had Baker Mayfield not shaking hands with Richard Sherman. Then later video confirms he did shake hands with Richard Sherman. There were different things that came out of that season that made it fun. I don't think you can force fun on people, especially when, and he said it, the quarterback very well could be Deshaun Watson, and nothing about this Deshaun Watson experience has been fun, funny, entertaining. It's been hilariously bad, but I wouldn't say that anything about Deshaun Watson has been fun. It's been embarrassing. I've been embarrassed
the
for
quarterback
the Browns.
battle and have fun.
I can't have fun.
Yesterday
if it's
from
Watson.
Almost universally, everybody I talked to that was watching every single snap of yesterday, they did not say the quarterback play was fun. Again, do you want us to compare the quarterbacks just to each other? Fine, Shador Sanders won the day, right? Seemed to me, from talking to everybody I talked to, it's that Deshaun was terrible.
Well,
and
then
so
Deshaun lost the day.
Yeah,
right.
Shador didn't win
yeah,
the
it wasn't
day.
about winning the day. It was about who lost the day, and Watson has lost a lot of days since he has been brought in, and it's been the worst acquisition and one of the worst trades in NFL history. But I really do, when I bring up that I question what kind of sports city we are living in, I got a scathing takedown from Zach Meisel about the Guardians, the team that has made the playoffs 7 of the last 10 years and is probably going to be 8 of 11. They won yesterday, by the way. Good job. Good job, team. Good job, squad. Good job, squadron. But 7 of 10, they've made the playoffs. And now I guess the question going forward is going to be, do you even care if the Guardians make the playoffs every year? Based on what I saw from Zach Meisel. The Cavs. The Cavs were one of the last 4 teams remaining in the season. That same guy who was looking for the fun, Nick Wilson, trashed your basketball team from start to finish. Like, made it seem like they were the 17-win Cavaliers the year before they got LeBron James. trash them.
We know it's a Browns town, though, Lima. We do.
Hold on. If they are a Browns town, what world am I living in that you wouldn't trash the team? That if we're all football savants in this town, we've all been raised by Jim Brown and Otto Graham. I never saw either of them play. But that's in our DNA.
Right.
That going to the Muni lot and being in the 537 boys and going to every game where I used to watch them pass around this vat of like juice. They'd say, drink the juice, drink the juice. And then by the end, I'd see some guy just lather it all over his body because we're football. That's what we get here. And we like watching Grant Delpit because we're sophisticated football fans. That's what the guy in your chair says every single day. And then they're terrible and they win 3 or 4 or 5 games every year. Is that what you want? Do you want positivity?
This is the part of the program, though, in the offseason where it's got to start. It's got to start for these crazy people in the Muni lot and the 537 boy. It really all starts here. The delusion starts here that you sell yourself on the dream, on the fairy tale, and you genuinely start to believe it, that this team can be good. And I've done it myself. I've fallen for the fairy tale many times over.
For the loving of Rocket Sanders. Okay, you've fallen for it.
I've fallen for it.
Yes.
This year I'm having an increasingly difficult time falling for it the way that I have in previous years because I've seen this exact movie play out with Deshaun Watson.
I just can't believe what I'm hearing this morning because I just heard the exact opposite yesterday afternoon. And now you guys are doing this. There's like a Mason-Dixon line in the middle of Baskin Phelps right now between the morning show and the afternoon show. I'm getting positivity from the afternoon show.
But here's what it is.
Nothing but negative from you.
It's the all-time double standard. I think it's one of the themes of sports in this city, and it's sports talk in this city.
Double standard.
The double standard that the Guardians can do no right, the Cavs can do no right, the Browns. Let's embrace the fun on a team that is going to be one of the worst teams in football this year. Where did I hear that?
Yeah.
There are no expectations for this team. And we have been so much of the misery and cynicism of the last couple of years. It's been the failure to meet expectations. Mm-hmm. It is saying, hey, we're going to go win a Super Bowl. And the Browns were a 3-win team. I think because you're in a spot here where no one expects anything of you. I think as a Browns fan, I think it's time to kick our feet up, embrace whatever happens. Whatever outcome comes of this is good. If they end up winning 3 games and get the number 2 pick, you're going to get your quarterback.
Yeah, no, but in the process, if they only win 3 games and I get my quarterback, I'm excited about that. Then week 12 is a tough go.
Well, okay, but again, like
that's where like the happiness, like my next 7 months, the happiness, a lot of it can be derived of what happens in the next 6 weeks.
But if that's where you expect it to go, how can you be unhappy with it?
I mean, that has been almost. That's been 90% of the years that we've been on the air. Is that December football has been meaningless in this town, and we're just waiting to see who they fire, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and last year. Was that any different?
No.
Are you expecting it to be different this year?
No. I said yesterday, dude, if they only win 4 or 5 games, you know exactly. You could take the rundown and you could literally throw in the garbage. You won't need a rundown for the entire month of December. If they enter it with only 3 or 4 wins, you know what's going to lead the show every single day.
All right, 216-474-0092. I want to know what side you're on when it comes to this. Are you going to embrace the fact that, your quarterbacks probably aren't going to be good and your football team is not going to be good? Let's just see what happens. It's football. It's in our blood. It's in our DNA. We are here in Northeast Ohio, the birthplace of football, and we are just going to kick back our feet and enjoy the ride. Are you more on Nick's side of this? 216-474-0092. We are locked and loaded. Mary Kay Cabot at 8:20. Don't forget your chance to win 92.3 The Fan Night at Crushers. Lake Erie Crushers. That chance is going to be at 8 o'clock. We got loaded show for you here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
50% off all styles.
I want you to give yourself permission to live and die with this. Because I think in the age of social media, a lot of people have gotten snarky about charting passes or watching videos on social media. I think we need to make this year about feeling good, about getting back to rooting for the Browns. And that might be complicated depending on who wins the quarterback job for you. Embrace the quarterback battle and have fun.
The feel-good Browns, Vegas has them at 5.5. Anthony Lima, Nick Padone is in for Ken Carman today. We have a lot to get to when it came to camp yesterday, including some news at the very start. Grant Delpit, a contract extension yesterday. In fact, it was a cool moment. Andrew, do you want feel-good? This was a feel-good moment. You retain a player, but some people were calling it a hold-in. Because he was there, but it's the first day.
Yeah, but like he was not doing anything, and he didn't do anything. He was there for spring practices and minicamp, but he didn't do anything. So he was definitely sending some sort of message about the contract. So was Denzel. Like Denzel was there throughout veteran minicamp. He didn't do anything either, and he acknowledged yesterday that that was contract related.
Well, 3-year extension worth $16 million annually, $35 million guaranteed, and so I wondered. I searched far and wide to see what people thought about this because yesterday when it came to Denzel Ward and that news, some people, like we had Zach Jackson, he said it was the same old Browns. Other people were like, we got to have some veterans. Nick, I think that was your take. You got to have some veterans, somebody who can lead by not just, the way that they lead in the locker room and the things they say, but also, how they approach work every single day. It's nice to have guys like that. But then we know they didn't keep Myles Garrett. So when people say, well, this is going to be important for like maybe next year when the Browns are good, you want to have some really good players. It's like, yeah, but you won't have Myles Garrett, who was the best player. So if you're expecting to be good the following year, whatever. I don't want to muddle the conversation. And then when the Grant Delpit thing goes down, I searched far and wide on the internet. And I saw this headline. And I want to run this by you guys, and then I'll tell you where it came from. You're not allowed to look. Don't look over here at the screen, Nick Padone.
Okay.
Because I found a headline, and it was, Grant Delpit's contract extension proves Browns aren't tanking or rebuilding. And I'm like, well, that's just silly on its face.
Ken Carman?
It was Nick Padone 16 hours ago on SI.com. Padone, I want you to, quote, as the afternoon show would say, show your work on the headline, Grant Delpit's contract extension proves Browns aren't tanking or rebuilding. Does it prove that?
I think it does. I think they've sold themselves on the fact that they're not tanking or rebuilding. I don't know if they are tanking or rebuilding, but I genuinely think that Andrew Berry, Todd Monken, everybody involved is kind of exiting the rebuild. I think they believe that trading back in back-to-back first rounds and trading Myles Garrett for Jared Verse, who they really like, in the 3 draft picks, I think they feel like that's enough. We want to compete. We want to win games. They've been pretty consistent with that messaging, too. That was Barry's first answer in Indianapolis at the Combine to kind of start this new football season. Is just because you're going to have a young team doesn't equate to being a bad team. And, of course, he cited, the Bears. He cited the Eagles, which is one of his favorite organizations to mention. I think they genuinely believe that they're exiting their little mini rebuild that they had to go through. And the quarterback is the one thing that they've got to address, but they have 2 first-round picks this year. They've got 2 second-round picks the year after that. So I think they've sold themselves on, we're exiting this rebuild. Is that the right or wrong assessment of where they're at? I don't know. We've seen for years the Browns misjudge where they're at as an organization. It happened in 2022 when they thought they were a quarterback away and they traded for Deshaun. They needed receivers at that time. They needed a left tackle at that time, but they thought the quarterback would just elevate everything on the roster. They misjudged that horrifically. Maybe this is another misjudgment of where they're at, but they're signaling to you, the fans, with all of their moves that they're exiting this rebuild, even though they don't have a quarterback still.
So there's no doubt you can't just be bad forever, right? You can't, we've defied that logic over the years, but in general, like when they did the 0-16 and 1-15, I thought, I know I got in constant bickering matches early at the onset of this show with Ken Carman about whether they were tanking or not. And Ken repeatedly would say they're not tanking, and I would say, well, of course they are. Look at the roster.
It was strategic.
And he would say, well, the players aren't taking. And I'm like, yeah, the players don't. You don't need to tell the players to lose. You just facilitate an atmosphere with a bunch of young players probably that aren't that good, and you'll lose a bunch of games. You don't have to actually tell them. You don't have to leave notes in their locker.
Right.
You don't have to send messages to their agent. You could just exist. And I think we know around the league the teams that are trying to do that. You know, it's interesting. Like the was it the Dolphins got Malik Willis? Remember we had talked about Malik Willis, but then they had cut the legs out from underneath by dispensing of all the good players. And it's like, well, what is that? Like,
I seriously couldn't even name a Dolphins receiver right now. Yeah, but that's what teams do. They strip it down. They get younger, they get cheaper, and they stockpile more draft picks. That was exactly 1-31. And I think that's exactly what these last 2 seasons have been. Like, the Browns have won 8 games over the last 2 years. And throughout those 2 years, they've repeated, we're not tanking, we're not rebuilding, we're trying to compete with Kevin Stefanski and all of that stuff. That led them to 8 wins rather in 2 years. I think that this is a little bit different, though. I think that they understand you've had back-to-back good drafts on paper. Really, you look at the starting position from, the retooled offensive line to the receivers, all the way down to our boy Rocket Sanders, and there is a decent amount of talent on this team at the starting level. I don't think there's a ton of depth on this team, but I think there's enough like high-end, young, starting caliber talent on this roster that the Browns have effectively sold themselves on the fact we're not rebuilding anymore, and now we can stomach a Denzel Ward extension, a Grant Delpit extension, because we've got all of these extra draft picks to boot, because we traded Myles Garrett and we traded back-to-back first-round picks. We bailed out of them.
Yeah, I just wonder if, obviously, like any team in a league, if they get off to a great start, if Shedeur Sanders emerges and plays well, all right, we'll shelve all these conversations, then Nick will be right, but we'll all be on cloud 9. 100% of the fan base will be on cloud 9 if that was the case. But to me, there's got to be a little bit of balance here. Like, if they just do what I expect them to do and start out the season 1-5 or maybe 2-3, but then they 7 of their what percentage? They're all like half their games, more than half their games are on the road to start out. Like, they have
it's a gauntlet to start.
Okay, if they do what I expect them to do and lose a bunch of games, like, do you think the front office is gonna be in hiding?
Probably. They were last year, weren't they? We didn't. Andrew Berry canceled the bye week press conference last year after trading the week 1 starting quarterback 5 weeks into the season. Of course they'll go into hiding.
I just kind of thought that wouldn't venture out that far from what the plan is, which is, the rebuild. And that's where I feel like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
But you've got to take care. You've got to have some good football players on this team, and it's just good business, especially with a young team, to showcase to a guy like Mason Graham, hey, if you succeed here, even if the wins don't come, you'll be taken care of. Grant Delpit, what's he really won? I hate to say it, Denzel's my guy. What's he won? A playoff game in Pittsburgh all the way back in 2020? It's been 6 years since 2020, but they're both great individual talents that you want to have on the Cleveland Browns that are a rebuilding team. So I can't get mad that they're taking care of good players, because I do like when the Browns have good players. Like, I would prefer that they extend Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit versus we were talking 1-31, Brian Body Calhoun, and who was the free safety back then? That was pre-Demarius Randall, Tashawn
I'm
Gibson.
I'm impressed you even mentioned those guys.
So
I have completely eliminated all them from my memory
talent
bank.
crop a little bit better than that talent crop, even though the results have been marginally better.
You fried my brain. I had something to say, and then you said Brian Body Calhoun.
Jamar Taylor on the other side.
You're going to get your
that
chance to at least ask those questions. Andrew Berry speaks today at 11:15. You'll hear it live.
He won't be in hiding today. You'll be able to.
So of course he's going to be out in front. As the optimism is at its peak right now, right? I don't know. Time will tell if he's going to do that midseason. And we did all that researching last year. Like, no, he doesn't have to do the midseason.
Right.
It's just we've gotten one every year for the last, 15 years. Why didn't we get one?
And we know what
last
this is going to be, right? Like the quarterback thing is going to be a competition. That competition breeds results. We see it at every position on every roster. It's no different than any other training camp battle. And you know what the other spin is? That this is a young team with a lot of promising young players that they're excited about. They want to see Schlesinger, Fannin, Judkins, Bond continue to develop. And then this year's rookie class should make just as big of an impact, they hope.
All right, 216-474-0092. Peter and Eastlake, go ahead. First off on the fan today, how are you?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Peter, good morning.
I think that, so when it comes to the quarterback competition, Lima, you said it earlier, they're the worst quarterback room in the league, so you can't compare them to the other 31 teams. You have to just focus on, like, who's going to win the job. And honestly, Deshaun's not the future, so he's I mean, if they pick him, it doesn't matter. He's not the future, so it's moot. Hopefully Shador can win the job. Hopefully he can do it. Hopefully he can do the job. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. I don't know. But I want to focus, the positivity should be focused on, like Padone said, the young core. Can the guys in year 2 continue to move forward? Can these young guys that we drafted adjust to the NFL and learn from these other young guys that we brought in? I think the Grant Delpit signing is extremely good, especially because when JOK went down, he filled in a lot at linebacker. He's also, and I know this is odd, but he's the same size as our new free safety from Toledo. So he can teach him how to be a big body safety in the back end of the defense. And he can teach him how to, see the field as a big guy like that.
All right, thank you, Peter. 216-474-0092. There's no doubt. Like, they've got good young players. I do think if you looked at 32 NFL rosters, you'd find good young players. These teams all add like 10 new players in the draft every year.
Every team has a draft. Every team has free agency. I just think that the Browns addressed big-time positions where they needed really good players. Left tackle, receiver. This is an important offseason for them.
All right, when we come back, could a reunion? Yesterday we talked Baker Mayfield. How about another reunion? Over there in Berea, we saw it yesterday. Will they bring in a controversial former Browns player? That's straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Hey, everybody, Andy Baskin for Weather Seal.
day at camp. Certainly expect the defense to make more plays than the offense. But when you're talking about being in a quarterback competition, you got to have the A game every day. And this is kind of what I have been talking about, the consistently inconsistentness of these quarterbacks. The wow moments, the good throws, followed by the yeesh, I can't believe I just saw that throws. Todd Monken saying he's got 2 NFL starting caliber quarterbacks on this roster, I think is very gracious and generous.
And that is the yeesh, I can't believe I just saw those throws report from Daryl Ryder and Lance Reisland. Daily Browns training camp recaps. 923 The Fan YouTube page. Check it out. Daryl and Coach going to break down the storylines from each day's practice and, of course, your daily quarterback competition updates, which you just heard there from Daryl. And catch the recap each night on Overtime with Jake at 8:40. Subscribe to 923 The Fan's YouTube page right now as you continue to see those flow in. We talked yesterday about a reunion of sorts, but we were talking quarterback. Baker Mayfield had been in the news. Looks like he's just going to play it out. He's just going to go to camp and then play the season out and hope that the play does the talking when it comes to a new contract. So we don't have to talk about Baker Mayfield today. We can talk about another reunion. Yesterday, did you see Nick Padone? Did your phone light up when it came to Jadeveon Clowney walking through on the very first day of practice, walking through Berea? I certainly didn't have that on my proverbial bingo card. Owen, I did not have that. Did you have that?
No, I just checked my bingo card. I did not have
every day. We start out every day with a bingo card.
I didn't have it on mine either. I did feel like I hopped in a time portal and went back to 2022, hearing Daryl say that it wasn't a banner day for quarterbacks, and then hearing that Jadeveon Clowney is in town for a visit. Felt like I went in a little bit of a time machine there.
Yeah, Mary Kay of Cleveland.com, who we will be talking to at 8:20. Stay tuned. I can't wait to get her thoughts on this. Browns, quote, strongly considering re-signing Jadeveon Clowney, who, if you just look at the sacks, it's amazing this guy's ever available. Last year, 8.5 sacks in 13 games. That seems pretty productive. The year before that, not as good in Carolina. 5.5 sacks. The year before that, 9.5 in Baltimore. But we know how things ended in Cleveland. And if you want to go into the Wayback Machine, here it is. Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com and The Plain Dealer had this to say about the end of the Jadeveon Clowney experience in Cleveland.
This has been going on all season long, where he feels like they have taken him, off of a favorable matchup and put Miles onto the more favorable matchup with someone. So therefore, he's not able to get the sacks, not able to get the pressures. The big takeaway, I think, is the fact that this has been bubbling under the surface all season long. He's been unhappy. Other times that I've just checked in with him, you could tell that he had something that he wanted to say. I did ask him, I said, this is where you wanted to be because you wanted to play with Deshaun. And he was like, I do. Deshaun's my boy. I want to play with Deshaun, but I have to go somewhere where they believe in me, and I don't feel like they believe in me here.
That's how it ended that was January 5th, 2023. So that's after the 2022 season. Remember, he didn't suit up for that final game of the year. They basically in-house suspended him. And now all of a sudden,
water under the bridge.
Myles Garrett gone. Jadeveon Clowney wants to be back.
Oh, it is so funny.
Kind of fascinating.
It is so funny because I remember we had those conversations, and sometimes I like to play devil's advocate, and I'm like, is anybody willing to hear out Jadeveon Clowney's side of things? And everyone's like, no, you're going to side with Jadeveon Clowney over Myles Garrett. Well, of course, Myles Garrett's no longer here, and I saw, so predictable, the Browns fans probably diametrically opposing view that they might have carried back in, what year was this again? 2022?
2022.
Because I saw everybody saying, well, maybe it was Myles Garrett's fault. Maybe it was Myles and it's not Jadeveon. But, again, keep in mind, this is like an all-time mercenary player in NFL history, right? I mean, yeah, he started his career out in Houston. He was the number one overall pick in the draft. Everybody remembers the play in the bowl game against Michigan, right? Like the all-time play where he
the helmet popped off,
sniffed it out, and it was a devastating hit. and then Seattle, then Tennessee, then Cleveland. So right there, it was 4 teams in 4 years. And then you go by Cleveland in 2022, then it was Baltimore, Carolina, Dallas. He's had 2 stints in his career, 4 teams in 4 years. Why not make it 5? And I guess I just look, this is just me, not the football tape guru. I'll save that for Coach Riesland. I'll save that for the people that know the ins and the outs. I just look at a guy like this and wonder, he's productive, but it's a different team every year, and he can't seem to find a team that wants him for multiple years. As far as the NFL goes, that seems like a guy that doesn't really fit into a team's culture.
Well, you remember his big thing was that, like, the Browns only care about Myles Garrett and getting Myles his numbers. The rest of it is secondary. They're trying to get Myles into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They're not trying to win games. Like, they're just trying to get Myles his sacks. That was Jadeveon Clowney's soapbox. But that has also kind of been his career,
Right.
where like he goes to a team, gets a bunch of sacks, doesn't make much of an impact on the field otherwise. Obviously a good player. Like if the Browns get him, it would be like, okay, you've got Jadeveon Clowney back. He's 33 now. You know, you had him in 2022, which again was a long time ago, as we continue to reference with Deshaun Watson how long it's been since you've seen Deshaun be a good player. It's been a very long time. It's been a long time since Clowney's been in that building. I did find it maybe a little bit humorous, just that, like, I don't know how many teams are necessarily in the Jadeveon Clowney sweepstakes, but he did leave Berea yesterday without a contract, even though the Browns are very serious about re-signing him. Maybe he saw the quarterback display and just said, you know what, I'm good. I'm good.
Maybe it's like, man, I came here for Deshaun Watson years ago. We were going to try to build a super team. And then I saw him yesterday, and I saw the back-to-back picks, and I was like, hey, see you later. It's more likely that all-time mercenary, which I think should be on his trading card, should be on, his Wikipedia page at the start. Like he probably just is asking for insane money, and he'll just wait to see if there are injuries on the defensive line.
He does this, like, this is the time of the year for Jadeveon Clowney. Like, it is Groundhog Day in that sense, is that, like, if you were planning NFL content, you know that around late July when training camps get started, and that means the number of practices remaining decrease, Jadeveon Clowney's going to be interested in signing somewhere. In this fall, it just happens to be the Browns.
What a perfect time to ask for somebody from South Carolina. Thomas is calling us. How do you feel about a potential Browns reunion with Jadeveon Clowney?
Morning, guys. Tone, I got an answer for with Clowney. Bring Clowney back, but I want to talk a little about Deshaun Watson. You asked last time he was good. But before we get into that, Padone, you're a Baker bro on this. On 3 of us, let's create a fair, balanced playing field. So do you define Baker by his early years of the Browns and Buccaneers years, or his 2021 year when his shoulder was hurt?
I guess the years with the Browns when he was good, and the year with last year with Tampa, he started out the year as MVP candidate. Go ahead.
Okay. Also, do you think he's been better or worse outside the fantasy system?
Probably better, right?
I don't know. I think that you want somebody to define Baker Mayfield when the guy has had the all-time roller coaster.
Thomas, I know what you're getting ready to do. Go ahead and do it. Well, Deshaun, we're finally going to get to see him outside of Stefanski. Go ahead. I'll let you say it.
Let's talk about it. So 2024 Deshaun, he had the hurt shoulder year, and then we had Ken Dorsey here. So let's throw out 2024, all right? So we have 2 years look at Deshaun as a Browns player, all right? Tone, your answer last time he was good was 2023. Okay, he was 4-1 as a starter. I'm not counting the Colts game. 4-1 as a starter. Watch the film on it. He beat Joe Burrow, outplayed Lamar Jackson.
Man, I don't know. The advanced numbers on him were still bottom 10 in the league. We do have those for a reason. Like it's not, I know quarterback wins. We like to talk about that time and time again. It seemed to me to be a lot of smoke and mirrors that year. I didn't think he was that good.
The Bengals game was a monsoon.
Yeah.
It was a monsoon. All right. So
you get those in Cleveland every November,
I
December.
was there. It wasn't. There was a light mist at the start of the game.
Wow. You guys have had that. Have you hashed this out before?
Go back and look at that. But watch 2023. And don't how much you need like the NFL.com credentials. I'll send it to you. Text me. I'll send you my credentials.
Oh, very nice.
Wow. On that end. And here's the thing. Go back to the Browns. He was 3-3 as a starter, right? If Cooper and Njoku catch the ball in the snow versus Saints, he's 4-2. So 4-2, 4-1. Basically, those first 2 years. Like, I'll take that. You put him in last year's team, right? They go to the playoffs. Let's not forget the 4-1 year, Nick Chubb only played 1 game. He got hurt in the Steelers game. He may have been 5-0. Nick Chubb doesn't get hurt in the Steelers game.
So you think, Thomas, you think the entire you think everybody is wrong on the Deshaun Watson era? You bring up a play here, a play there, which, of course, I hear from the Shador fans all the time last year. You're dug in. You feel like he's got a shot to be good again.
We haven't seen enough of him. I want to see him outside the fancy system. Like I'm not a fancy guy, right? And so you were on boat about getting Deshaun here. I
wanted him, yeah.
Right? I know. So let's see him outside the fancy system, right? Under a coach now who's a real OC who's going to put him in the best position to win and look like a good quarterback. Let's see it. We have nothing to lose.
All right, Thomas. Thank you very much for the call. A staunch defense of Deshaun Watson. We started the show playing all-time optimism out of the afternoon show, and we end the hour with the one guy in the world that has a defense
I
of
feel
the
like
Watson
I'm kind
era.
of getting punked. Where is Ashton Kutcher?
Hey, we found one. Is there two? 216-474-0092. We will get back to the quarterback dilemma and how they played yesterday. I really want to know, do you just want us to compare the quarterbacks in what is considered one of the bottom rooms of the NFL, or do you want perspective on how these guys stack up with the rest of the NFL, plus a scathing takedown of the Guardians? That's straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. XTENDAV.com. Extend technologies where there is
92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline Sports News every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Get to the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel to see daily Browns training camp breakdowns with Darryl Ryder and Coach Lance Reisland.
I'm impressed that you guys can still have that kind of recall on specific Browns games in forgettable years.
Well, we're talking about it during the break, because he cites how great the start of the season would have been if the Bengals game wasn't a monsoon, which it wasn't not a monsoon. I was there. There was like a light mist in the air. It was not even rain. It was a light mist to start the game. It was completely cleared out by the second half. So we'll dispel that. And then the game that he cited, well, if Nick Chubb didn't get hurt, the Browns would have won that game. Deshaun Watson opened that game with the pick six. Like, there is that photo that exists where he threw it exactly right to Alex Highsmith, who quickly returned it for a touchdown. And Deshaun just has his hands on his head, like in disbelief that that's how the game started. That was I think, the first throw of the game. They maybe ran it with Chubb to start the game. The first throw of the game.
It was within like 15 seconds. The Steelers were already on the board. Yeah.
Well, I just remember even at the time, because the caller brought up, and today is going to be day 2 of camp, and we know Shedeur Sanders now is going to get a crack at getting the first team reps and playing with the ones, right? Yesterday, it was with the number 2s, and everything got dissected yesterday. And, we had played the audio from Darryl where he said, that was a bad day all the way around for the quarterbacks, but it seemed to be an atrocious day for Deshaun Watson. And that feels like the theme of the Browns ever since they obtained him, is that a lot of atrocious days. The caller did bring up the wins, the wins that year, and I'm like, were we giving him credit?
No.
For the wins? I mean, I'll never forget the game ball that he got against Washington that first year when he was so bad. You remember he came out of the gates against Houston. I know it was a weird situation. He was a pariah. He started the season because of the suspension, very late in the year, and then Stefanski gave him a game ball for that game. I think it was against Washington, and he was horrible.
He didn't have 200 passing yards in that game.
Can you get a game ball as a quarterback if you don't eclipse the 200-yard mark?
Maybe in like the 60s when the quarterbacks weren't throwing.
You could
all
win
that
MVP back then doing that. Before the advent of the forward pass, sure.
But that's really what we've been resided to for this Deshaun Watson thing. So for the people that think that it's like over the top negativity, or that Lima and I are really just out to hate on Deshaun, or whatever the case might be.
I wanted him.
This is what it's been, and I didn't want him. Like, I'll admit that, I was kind of resistant against that. And he called in and he called me a Baker bro. That's fine. I wanted them.
Are you a Baker bro?
I wanted them to give Baker one more opportunity. I didn't know what Deshaun would look like with the year off and then the suspension that came. I was eventually talked into that they had to upgrade the quarterback because Baker was actively, like, when Baker ruined Christmas, I think everybody kind of knew, okay, something has to give here. That something was Deshaun Watson, and it just hasn't worked. And I feel bad. I do. This morning, I find myself, Tone, I feel bad for Browns fans right now because the Browns as an organization are forcing us to do this. You understand that, right? Like, if they would have just taken the blueprint path that the Denver Broncos gave to Andrew Berry, of how to dispel a bad quarterback contract, how to get past it, when they ate all that money with Russell Wilson and drafted Bo Nix in the first round, we wouldn't be forced to do this. But for whatever reason, they're continuing to give Deshaun Watson an opportunity, and the reason is because they paid him $230 million.
I'm stunned he's still here.
I'm not as stunned that he's still here. I'm stunned that we're seriously talking about him as an actual viable option to start week one. Like, that is absolutely bewildering to me. I never thought that they would have the gall, honestly, to do that to this fan base ever again. I didn't think that they would, but clearly they are, because we are covering actively right now a training camp in which he took the majority of the snaps and the majority of the reps with the first team offense. They are seriously considering putting that dude back on the field for the Browns this year. I really can't believe it.
All right, let's go to the phones. Maybe not. If you get more days like yesterday, maybe we won't have to worry about that at all. 216-474-0092. Your chance to win Lake Erie Crushers tickets on 92.3 The Fan Night. That's at 8 o'clock, plus Mary Kay Cabot at 8:20 with more on the developing situation with Jadeveon Clowney. Jack and Lorraine. What's going on, Jack? How are you?
Gentlemen, thank you for taking my call. I kind of want to support the call from Thomas. I think too many times when people talk about statistics, then they get thrown out the window saying, well, you got to go by what your eyes tell you, or you got to go by wins. So he starts talking about wins. Well, now we got to talk about statistics and what your eyes tell you. So I'm supporting his thought process in that Watson has been an 800 quarterback when it comes to wins and losses. Shedeur has been about an 800 quarterback when it comes to wins and losses. To say that this
an
is
eight.
The
Wait. Say that again. Did you say an 800? What are you getting that from?
I'm sorry. The Shedeur's like 3 and 4, and Watson's like 8 and 9. So
he's only started 17 games since he's been a Brown.
Yes. So my point being is, I heard you guys, one of you say earlier that this is clearly the worst quarterback room in the NFL. Well, I can think of 3 right off the top of my head they would give them a run, and that would be Minnesota, Arizona, and Miami. So I just think that people are too quick to judge when it comes to Shedeur, and there's a lot of animosity toward Watson, understandably so, but I think giving them both a fair shot this year is warranted.
All right, thank you, Jack. The too quick to judge thing on Shedeur, 100% true. I mean, 7 games when he was thrown into the fire like that. I told you I don't even count his first game against Baltimore. I'd throw out the tape. Like, there's no reason. That was such a terrible situation to be thrust in. But that is what we kind of in front offices have to do. Like, we've talked about the difference between a first-round pick and a fifth-round pick. I'm not dooming Shedeur's entire career, but when you're a fifth-round pick, what percentage of fifth-round picks ever even get to have a job in the NFL beyond 3 years?
And I think
it's probably tremendously low.
Like, I don't like that he used the word animosity. I don't feel any sort of animosity towards Shedeur, towards Deshaun. I don't know either of them. When I'm talking about Deshaun, I'm talking about the fact that we've had this project going on since 2022. This football season, during the regular season for the Browns, the calendar will flip to 2027. That's how long that this has gone on, and he has not been a good quarterback. I don't feel any sort of animosity towards him personally. I just can't sell myself.
Like, if he would have been good the last time you saw him, like, you're not talking about the baggage, you're not talking about the suspension, the allegations.
I could check all of that at the door.
It has been years since then. I mean, I say what you want. Like, I get it's always going to be brought up with Deshaun Watson, but I did ask yesterday. It does feel to me like we are so far removed, and normally that is the elixir, right? Time is the one thing that, hey, in this country, you know, second chances.
Yeah.
Now he's never showed remorse. It doesn't seem particularly, which has not helped him with the fan base.
No, not at all.
But either way, like, you know, the guys are accused of horrific things all the time. And over the course of years, like, or is it the first thing you bring up every single time? Like, eventually, life moves on. We've got so many other scandals in the league. It's not that it's forgotten, but we are judging him, I think, on the merits of his play now. That's what I'm judging him on.
I'm judging him on the fact that the last time he completed a season, forget about looking like a good quarterback, just was there from the start to the finish. The COVID pandemic had not happened yet. The league had not expanded their schedule yet from 16 to 17 games. Like, it was a very long time ago. So I can't sit here in good faith with this platform that I'm blessed to be given and sell our diehard Browns fans on some sort of false hope that this guy could be something that he's just not. We've never seen that happen before. That there was a guy that was once a great player, spent 6 years being a bad injury-prone player, right? We also haven't mentioned he broke his shoulder, ruptured his Achilles twice, and missed all of last year recovering from that. How do we actually expect that guy to be able to do anything this year?
19 starts the year before with the Browns. The year before, he had 16 starts with Houston. Like, it is incredible how he has just not been durable. And by the way, that is considered a trait over time in the NFL. Like, you're not going to go into a season and assume he's going to be able to complete it at this point because he just hasn't been able to show it. 216-474-0092. We've had some positivity today for Deshaun Watson. I have no idea where it truly does go to show that the start of training camp for some, hope springs eternal for a lot of you. So I do want to hear from you. I can't believe we found 2. Is there 3, dare I say? And we got to get to what was written about your baseball team, the same team that has made the playoffs in 7 of the last 10 years and very well could be 8 of 11, and yet a scathing takedown. Is there really a double standard in this town when it comes to the teams? That's all coming up here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lima for
92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
I do have
the Cardinals and the Jets. It's like, oh, sure, that's not like that's an odd company to be in, right? Like, I would much rather be in the Chiefs and Bills and Ravens and Bengals company.
That's
than
one of those things too, where it's just you're taking it because that's where you are. If you go to Arizona, they'll go where we'd rather have our room than what the Browns are doing.
Sure, and then like he threw Minnesota in there too. Like I know that they're labeling that as a competition, but that's going to be Kyler Murray, right?
Well, we had talked about potentially if you truly didn't want to rebuild, and that's where we get back into the discussion about whether this is a rebuild or a teardown or something else, given the signings over the last 48 hours with Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit. Like, all right, if you were really trying to win games, like Kyler Murray has proven that he can, inconsistently, but he can play good football, right? Like, he has had good moments. I know that when people look at the name Kyler Murray and they look at his size and they just tell me how bad he is, I'm like, well, he's played good football at times. I don't expect him to be a top 10 quarterback, but he has shown the ability to do it in stints, right?
Right. And same thing with Malik Willis. And there was a big debate. You know, every free agent quarterback, at some point, we linked to the Browns this offseason. Browns decided they were good with Watson and Sanders. They had their opportunities to go out and get a Malik Willis or a Kyler Murray. And obviously, maybe that was a two-way street. Those guys probably didn't want to come to Cleveland. But they did have opportunity to chase those guys, and they didn't take it.
But Malik Willis, who's desperately looking for a home and a contract, you're telling me he would not have come to Cleveland?
Debate that on the Sunday show with Daryl Ryder. That's all I have to say. I would have done it.
Did that go south for you?
It did, yeah, because when I came back from Indy, like everybody was telling me when I was out there, like you guys need to be on heightened alert when this free agency opened. Like everybody, that I was talking to from the scouting community, if you will, said that, hey, last year, like Shador was fun, wasn't he? Yeah, he was. That was my reply. And they said, well, that was about it. That's the Shador experience. That's what I was getting from different scouts in the league. Deshaun Watson, physically, we've never seen anybody come back from this. So the league was expecting that the Browns were going to be in on a Willis or a Murray. And then when that didn't happen, kind of attention maybe shifted a little bit to Ty Simpson. And that didn't happen either. And we really got left with the quarterbacks that we started with, plus Taylor Green.
Yeah. Well, I do have the rankings in front of me. CBS did have number 5, the 5th worst room, the Miami Dolphins with Malik Willis, Quinn Ewers, and others. Also at number 4, the Atlanta Falcons. They have Penix and Tua, and of course, the early reporting already is that these guys aren't even ready to play physically. Tua came in with a back situation. Like, good luck there.
Yeah.
Man, Bijan Robinson is going to be run and thrown into the ground, I think, throughout the season. Number 3, the Arizona Cardinals. They have Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, Carson Beck. Number 2, the New York Jets with Geno Smith, Cade Klubnik, and Bailey Zappi is on that roster. Well, would Bailey Zappi improve the Browns quarterback room?
And he's
right
their
now?
third. It's Geno, Klubnik.
I always bring up Gardner Minshew, and Ken gets annoyed that I bring up Gardner Minshew. And my whole point, the reason I bring Gardner Minshew up is he was a nobody coming into the league, got thrust into the starting role 3 games in because of injuries. And I was like, man, he acquitted himself well. That was a terrible situation. And he actually played really, really well. Great highlight. Really want to talk about highlights of Shador last year. Go look up Gardner Minshew's highlights from his rookie year. He is their 3rd string and then in Arizona. And then finally, number 1, the Cleveland Browns. And that's just CBS. If I go to others, I got the Bleacher Report. They have the Browns third worst quarterback room.
Okay, you're in the bottom 3.
All that is to say is if you ask anybody outside of this room, this radio station, this market, they're all saying the Browns have one of the worst quarterbacks. I don't think that's controversial. I don't think I should have to explain myself.
What's difficult, though, is that we have to pull for this bottom 3 quarterback room in the league. We have to cover every single day this bottom 3 quarterback room in the league. And everybody's like, oh, here you guys go talking about the quarterbacks again. It's like, guys, they have a competition going on right now. Like, don't be mad at us for talking about this. Be mad at the Browns that they didn't announce a starting quarterback like their head coach wanted to when they broke spring. There are plenty of other NFL organizations that understand who their starting quarterback is going to be right now.
All right, in just a little bit, we'll get to the scathing takedown of one of the best organizations, I think, in all of sports. We'll try to make sense of it. James in Philly, next up on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. How are you, James?
I'm doing all right. And you guys are right. Part of the reason why you're at the bottom of quarterback rankings is purely just because you haven't made a decision. And Deshaun's not the answer. I think it's much ado about nothing that Shador hasn't beaten him out in camp. The last couple rookie quarterbacks or second-year quarterbacks haven't beaten out the veterans at all. Drake didn't beat out Jacoby, and who else was there? The Patriots just made a decision.
Yeah.
Caleb, two years in a row, he was bad in camp and in practice, to the point of Ben Johnson getting there year 2 and being like, I really like Taylor Bagent. His dad thumb wrestles. Like,
I remember that.
all that is true. And if anything, the same exact things that have been said negatively about Caleb by his own team and staff, including the new head coach, were the same things said about the bad things that were said about Shador. Missing easy throws, backpedaling, and we all know the large investment they made in the offensive line and all the receivers in Chicago. So if the Cleveland Browns just made a decision, there wouldn't be this confusion, but it's also, you give the best rookie quarterbacks get better by playing, not really by practicing. So that's why Ben Johnson was just like, I'm not playing Taylor Bagent. I like him better, but Caleb will get better by playing.
Sure, but you would say that, you would say that, though, James, about every young quarterback in the league, whether or not they're talented, whether they're first-rounders, whether they're – because you're talking Caleb Williams. That's a guy who's taken number 1 overall. Obviously, you know, the plan, that's an investment in a quarterback. When you take quarterback in the 5th round, that is nowhere near the same investment, and organizations will always turn the page on a 5th-round quarterback fast.
But James, your point here, though, is that if your options are Sanders and Watson, just commit to Sanders now, right?
Yeah, so part of and Lima, I've seen you talk about this, so I will make this better than the Shador fans that you say have been driving you crazy with this. Deshaun's a sunk cost fallacy at this point.
I agree.
I'm a fan of good process. So do we think Shador pre-draft is really talented?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Cool. Is Deshaun good?
No.
No. All right. So
I like that. He's logically breaking this down. You're asking very, very normal questions, and we're giving very standard answers.
Yeah. We traded Myles Garrett, got great compensation. I think the narrative before preseason, before the mini camp, was that, we think the Browns are out on this year because they traded Myles. I don't think that's true. I think the signing and extension of Denzel Ward shows you the Myles Garrett was such great compensation they had to take it, but they still believe in something that's happening either in the building or at camp.
All right.
You're like,
All right. Thank you for the call. The only thing I would say about that is, like, every team does have a quarterback room, and every team in the league that has a bad quarterback room also has a young guy.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean they believe in the young guy. It is hey, we have to see him at some point. We want to see, hey, it's one thing to watch him in practice. I agree with the caller there. Like, some guys are just not practice guys. That's a great example. You know, with Caleb, who, I mean, even the stats say he's got accuracy issues. And then you watch him.
The completion percentage, the national media's killed him all
and then you watch him in January playoff games, and when you need a 3rd down throw, like, that guy makes it happen. So, you know, you think other things could potentially get better. All right, I want to move to this. So we'll get back to the phones here in a second. I want to move to the Guardians because last night the Guardians win a game, does that mean they have the Ohio Cup?
They do. They got the Ohio Cup back. They got to shine it up, though. I did see some stuff online that the Reds have been using it as like a toothbrush holder. I don't know if that's real or not.
Excuse me?
But there has been some disrespect in the Ohio Cup discourse, especially last night. Like there were a lot of people.
They defiled the iconic Ohio Cup.
And Tone, there were a lot of people that were maybe, dare I say, even willing to articulate this, that the Ohio Cup doesn't matter. That's what people were saying, not me.
Why
Many
play
people.
the games then? Why even give the cup the vaunted name that it has?
I'm just telling you what people online were saying.
So yesterday, they win 6-1, and, it was after getting shut out 3 out of 4 times. Nice Kwan, another 2 hits, ladies and gentlemen. Steven Kwan, Jose had a couple of hits. And it was a nice win. They're back to 2 games above 500. And it looks, again, like in a watered-down AL Central, watered-down American League, like they're probably going to make the playoffs again for the 8th time in 11 years. Crazy to say. Like, it almost feels like the playoffs have lost their meaning. I feel very almost – I can't even say the Pittsburgh Steelers. Have they made the playoffs? Did they have a run of 7 times in 10 years? Like, their run is just over 500 every year.
Right.
Like the Guardians, by virtue of, yes, the division they're in, and the fact that they expand the playoffs, 14 of the 30 teams make the playoffs now in Major League Baseball. I don't know if it's as celebratory as it used to be, but it is still something that I think deserves merit, especially given the payroll. That's where Zach Meisel comes in. We have him on all the time from The Athletic. And I called it a scathing takedown, where the headline, once again, the lackluster Guardians lineup is a self-inflicted liability. And it's something that, honestly, we've gotten bored on this show, even talking about payroll and Dolans. And I know people say you're giving them a pass. We're just bored with the conversation. I don't think there's any new ground to unearth there. We all want Dolan to spend more money. We all have said Dolan's a great ambassador, a great steward of the Guardians. He has kept this team, or the management has kept this team with a winning formula, a winning culture. But does it feel like they're going to win the World Series? No. I think, when we have a run like 2016, you cherish it because it's really hard in any of the sports to get to the final series. But no, I don't really have World Series expectations for them year in and year out. And maybe that's part of the problem, and that's what Zach is getting to. But I want to focus in on the end of this. The scuttlebutt around the league is that seemingly everyone needs an offensive jolt, and because so many teams are in the race, the market might remain murky until right before the deadline. No team needs a jolt more than this one, though. At some point, you have to build towards something. Instead of eternally kicking the can down the road, AL Central titles are cool, but the Guardians demonstrate how meaningful those are when they don't bother to use them as a springboard into something better. There's a nucleus in place. Jose Ramirez approaching his 34th birthday. He's tethered to the organization for another 6+ seasons. You mentioned some of the other young players and top prospects, but says the Guardians clearly need more. Sort the league leaderboard by any offensive statistics, scroll to the bottom, and locate the Guardians, just have you done in years past. Holy cow. Zach Meisel from The Athletic, and he's as good as it gets covering baseball. He does a terrific job. It's not like I disagree with anything he wrote there. I think we've all kind of just accepted that they're never going to be a player in free agency. The hot stove is not even something we mention. We don't even bother covering the winter meetings anymore. And we are an afterthought when it comes to inking any of those free agents. I imagine you agree with the sentiment there. But then I feel like tonally, it sounds like we're talking about the Browns.
Yeah.
And I want to know if you think that is fair.
I think it's fair with this Guardians team specifically, just because you look at a pitching staff that's so good and you feel like you're so close. Because you're in this bad division. The American League is down. There's really no true elite teams. So I think part of his point is that at some point, you got to just go for it. Like, you're always good. The Guardians are a well-run organization. They're good. They've got good players. but go get one or two great players that could elevate the ceiling of this thing. We know the floor is really high, but if they could raise the ceiling and actually be a threat in the postseason, like I think they're going to be a playoff team. But to his point, when you start playing the Yankees and some of these teams that could hit home runs,
they just don't match up.
You can't match them home run for home run. You can't.
And then you see a story, and it'll be coming up probably in about last night, but Skubal, could he be going to the Dodgers? Like, then I revert back to we're like 20-plus other baseball markets going, what's the point? What's the point? The one of the best pitchers in baseball might just land with the Dodgers. Like, we're never going to match up with these teams. If we actually got to the World Series, we're never going to match. I know the whole thing, it's baseball, anything can happen. Doesn't really feel that way. All right, 216-474-0092. Plus, John put in the tease for About Last Night. Let's read it. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? We asked young John to put it. Okay, here we go. Coming up in About Last Night, the Guardians haven't won a World Series since 1948, but they did take home a trophy last night. We'll tell you what they won. Any guesses?
We might have butchered that for him.
Any guesses? All right. Maybe we'll do better with this one. Could Ohio State versus Michigan mean less than ever before? All right. I like this one. Find out in 5 minutes here on The Fan. All right. The young team has helped so many people out in Northeast Ohio. Sellers who have been looking for help, looking for relief, put in a bad spot. Maybe you inherited a property from a loved one, and now you got
Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
So much can happen around the globe that we never hear of.
I really don't give a I mean, it had nothing to do with me. I mean, they moved the meeting. I didn't miss it. I was just trying to get a sweet haircut.
How it is when you win in Cleveland, man. They love you. When you lose, whew, it's the way it should be.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. How he couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
That sounds really good, but I'm not 6'5", and I don't have the athletic ability to play in the NBA.
Now, the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
The Guardians defeated the Cincinnati Reds 6-1 yesterday and won their first series since the All-Star break. Stephen Kwan is back. He's hitting .347 with an .853 OPS over his last 30 games.
Would you trade him? Is this the time to trade high on Stephen Kwan?
I might trade him, but you gotta get something big in return. But they're a game and a half back of the White Sox, and they did win the Ohio Cup. And here's what Kyle Manzardo had to say about it.
It's cool. It'll be fun to look back on. Yeah, just a cool little side quest in the season, I guess.
Can't you hear how excited he is? I mean, the tension is palpable.
He's the Ohio Cup MVP.
Yeah, he was the MVP. Put some respect on that MVP of the Ohio Cup.
Is Kyle Manzardo heating up?
It's been what, 3 games since he started playing well?
We'll take what we can get, though.
At this point, with that first base position, I'll take whatever I can get.
He's proven that in the biggest games of the year so far, he steps up in a big way, right? So, Ohio Cup, who knows what's next? Wild card playoffs, divisional round. I'm sure he'll be big.
I do have a question. Like, the NBA is putting a lot of weight into their in-season tournament, and then what do you know? Last year, the teams that were competing in the in-season tournament, those teams, we actually have a theme for it. They end up playing in the NBA Finals, and you know, the Knicks come out victorious. And so I think more people are going to take the Cup seriously next year. I don't know if it'll ever be a big deal or if it's just something we're going to consistently have fun with by playing that kind of music. Now, the Ohio Cup, I do wonder, could baseball get into the in-season tournament world? Do they need to? I know everything is trending upwards until the work stoppage for Major League Baseball. The ratings are up. They sped up the games. It has been widely embraced, especially by the younger generation. But it still is 162 games. Like, the doldrums hit during a baseball season.
Is this made up in my mind? Or a couple of years ago, was there some chatter about, like, reorganizing the divisions?
Yes, and that's a real thing. Yeah.
And you could do, like, if you wanted to do an in-season tournament, you could let the AFC North compete in baseball, where it's the Reds, the Pirates. I think that'd be pretty fun.
That's what I was going to go with. Like, they're going to add 2 teams in Major League Baseball. You do the AL North, and then that rivalry actually has some implications.
It's different. Because, like, I personally don't think of the Reds as rivals. Do you guys?
No, we talked about this last week. I was there when Pittsburgh was in town. I would much rather, because of the way that the Pirates fans took over the stadium when they ended up, winning. Skeens was pitching on that Sunday, and they won like 7-1 or whatever.
Yeah, even leaving the studio here, there were people in Skeens jerseys left and right when I was walking out of the show.
And I said it then, but we walked out in like the 8th, and we heard a big crowd pop, and we were like, oh, Guardians must be coming back. No, we got into the place we were going to eat, and the Pirates had scored another run, and that's where your potential for a real rival is.
Although a couple of nights ago, people were annoyed that the Cincinnati fans were a little classless with their profanity-laced cheers. Like, it does feel like they hate us a lot more than we even think of them.
Same thing with Browns and Bengals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even when we're awful and they have their quarterback, we still can beat them, which is crazy.
Right. And they think of the Browns as their big rivals. We think of the Steelers and the Ravens as our real rivals.
Again.
Big Ten Media Day was this week, and the BCS gave you 2 teams. The original college football playoff gave you 4 teams, and last year's iteration of the college football playoff gives you 12 teams. Well, USC head coach Lincoln Riley was speaking at Big Ten Media Day, and, well, this is what he said at the potential of a 24-team playoff.
When you get a room of 50 coaches or whatever we have in this conference together, it's hard to get everybody to be like unanimous on something. This is something that our room has been unanimous on. Look at every other major sport and look at the percentage of teams that have access to a playoff.
We were talking about this before the show a little bit, and I said that the 2014 playoff adds more meaningful games, but it makes the biggest games less meaningful. Like Michigan and Ohio State, that used to be really for the right to go to the Big Ten championship, which in turn meant the right to go to the college football playoff. And that's just not the way it is anymore. Ohio State lost 2 games in the regular season in 2024 and won the national championship game.
Well, when you lose to Michigan and then win the championship, that was an impossibility my entire life and the entire life of the rivalry. It was quite literally an impossibility. Now, you can. It's been proven.
That's what
We've
changed.
seen it.
And in my mind, that's what changed the rivalry in 2024. That changed it. So, if they want to expand to 24 teams, we know why they want to expand. Dollars and cents.
And that ends the Big Ten championship, right? If they're expanding the playoff.
But I think they'll still play it. Because, again, there's dollars to be made.
How many games in the season are there going to be?
There's already Indiana played 16 games last year.
What
right?
about the classes for the student athletes? Do they even go to class anymore?
They didn't go there to play school.
Do the Ohio State players even know where Mirror Lake is? Have they been to the quad? Do they
Can't
even
jump in? So what's the point?
They empty Mirror Lake now the week of the Michigan game because we had some tragedy in the past. So that's it. That ruins it for, I guess, forever.
Forever
and for everybody.
Put the damn water back in the lake, Michigan week. Come on. Anyway, I hate this. No college football fans want an expanded playoff to this point.
No, they don't. It waters it down, but they're going to do it. It feels like it's similar to the 18th game. Nobody really wants it, but it's probably going to happen.
It's funny. When we talked about 17 games, fans were like, yeah, more football. Who's saying no to more football? Now we've seen it, and we've seen what the last few weeks of the NFL season look like, and we know how much worse it's going to get, and we've had 64 quarterbacks starting the season. Now it'll be 70. Come on. This is where I'm putting up a defense. I don't need more football at this point.
That's it for About Last Night.
Beautiful. When we come back, you know what? So much was made of the quarterback competition on day one, which it appears Deshaun Watson was the big loser. And I guess would that mean Shedeur is the big winner? But something happened after camp that people demanded I brought up a positive moment for the Cleveland Browns and maybe some leadership. You be the judge when we come back here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lima for QC.
glad we don't have to have that with Denzel.
Yeah, I was going to be sitting in the background, and what's nice is that, unlike Miles, we can look at Denzel and be like, that's a one-helmet guy. That he's going to start and likely finish his career with the Cleveland Browns, which maybe this is the Browns understanding that. I like Denzel. It was not the finest year last year for him, all things considered, but this is worth it. This is worth it to have the one-helmet guys.
The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
All right, this will be perfect timing in just a second after I just heard the promo. 92.3 The Fan looking for a winner. Enter the code word WALK, W-A-L-K. 92.3thefan.com before 9 a.m. Your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to the 92.3 The Fan night with the Lake Erie Crushers. Cannot wait for this. Next Friday at Forefront Field in Avon. Ken and I will be there along with Nick Wilson, who you just heard in that clip, taking over all the in-game fun, including the first pitch at 7 p.m. Get tickets at lecrushers.com. All brought to you by the Crushers and Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. That will be a night to remember. I absolutely cannot wait for that. But I can't wait to do this segment because I did not know that promo was going to run. But to paraphrase, Nick Wilson just said, hey, at least we don't have to talk about trading Denzel Ward anymore. And then this came in yesterday from the newly minted 2 more years tacked on to the contract. Cleveland Brown, maybe for life. Denzel Ward.
I just pretty much focus on where I'm at. Like, if I'm here, cool. You know, if it came to the point to where I needed to be traded, then I think I'll focus more on it then. But that didn't come about yet. And I can still get traded. You know, that's the NFL. Things happen. And but I just deal with it as stuff come. You know, you can't worry about the what ifs all the time. You just got to be in the moment.
Wait a second. I was just told by Nick Wilson, thank God we don't have to talk about trading Denzel. And then he brings it up yesterday on the day of positivity in Berea.
Maybe Denzel didn't get the memo.
Yeah,
that
Nick.
That Afternoon Drive was doing the positivity show.
Nick, call him up. Talk to him. I was going to say, really, Padone, it's your boy. You went to high school with Denzel. You guys text. You guys hang out.
We do not.
2 Nordonia boys, right?
He's older than me. We do not.
Obviously, I you know, it's funny because I did ask around. I'm like, do we have the terms of the contract? Because, you know, when you're in a bad season, you always talk about trading the veterans. And now that you traded Myles Garrett, like, you can never say a player is not a potential trade target.
Well, and he was asked, Denzel was asked if he wanted a no trade clause put into that contract, and he wouldn't touch it. He did not want to answer that question. He said, I'm not going to get into those sort of things as it pertains to the contract. But you heard him there in that clip acknowledging that, hey, the possibility is there. Like, we thought that an offseason ago when they extended Myles Garrett, like, all of this awkwardness over. I mean, not the awkwardness wasn't over, but Myles complaining and ranting about the Browns was going to be over, and really the awkwardness was beginning because Myles was going to be back after everything that he said, and they lined up the dinosaurs and the cupcakes, and they did his press conference, and then a couple months later he was traded, you know, to the Los Angeles Rams. So nothing's definite in the NFL, and Denzel Ward surely aware of that, literally just a day after signing a contract that made him the highest paid defensive back for the second year in his career. He understands that's just the business of the sport, that you can get traded when things start going south. And that contract does not have a no trade clause, even though we heard from Denzel say that he wanted to be in Cleveland. He's an Ohio kid through and through, played high school football at Nordonia, college football at Ohio State. He's never played outside of Ohio. And he likes that, and that means a lot to him. So he wants to be here, but he is not being naive about the reality of the business. That's for sure.
And look, people say, well, the dead cap. What about the dead cap? I mean, aren't they paying Joel Bitonio on the cap this year? The Ledger, $23 or so million. Like, that's what the Browns do.
Yeah, the dead cap just doesn't do much. Remember, they did it a couple years ago. Sheldon Richardson. They finally got Sheldon Richardson's dead cap relief to, like, last year. Like, you were finally done with Sheldon Richardson. So this is what they do.
Every year is Bobby Bonilla year, you know, for the Cleveland Browns. And, you know, it is interesting. We'll get to Shedeur, which I thought was a good moment after camp yesterday, despite what some of the texts I received about it. I do find it interesting. Like, I heard also the afternoon show the other day talking about the cap, and how, you know, the Browns, because of their savviness with the cap and they're willing to spend money like the cap is never an issue, but it's also not like we sign a ton of free agents every year, nor do you really want to in the NFL.
Right.
Like in the NFL, if you're signing free agents, like very rarely does that equate to big time success, because free agents are what? By definition, they're free. Why are they free?
They're available for a reason.
The team didn't prioritize them. And if we all say the cap is not even real around the NFL, then free agents really are guys that their previous team want them out of the picture.
But that's why, like, to bring the conversation back to Denzel and Grant Delpit, and I know you have, like, mixed feelings about it just because of the mixed signals that the Browns are sending. You know, are you rebuilding or are you not? I don't mind it, because I would rather have those players that the Browns drafted, develop, put so much time, energy, effort, resources into making those players what they are today. I would rather just keep those dudes here than try to find replacements. Like the corner position, there's not many great elite corners in football. Like, I would rather just have Denzel Ward than have the second round pick that I could get for Denzel Ward, because that's a difficult position to play. These receivers are better now than they've ever been. You could probably say the same thing about strong safety. So I really don't mind, even though it certainly does send mixed signals on where the Browns are at. If they're rebuilding, if they're tanking, they're signaling to you that they think that they're not rebuilding. They don't think that they're tanking. But I just don't mind them keeping around good players. Like, I think Denzel Ward is a good player. I think Grant Delpit is a good player, and I don't mind that they found...
Great guy, obviously, great guy, especially Denzel to have in the locker room.
Yeah, and right, like, that's another thing that, like, for the young talent that they do bring in, like, for a guy like Schlesinger, who showed so much promise as a rookie, and Mason Graham showed a ton of promise as a rookie, like, maybe then now these guys can believe, like, hey, even though we only won 5 games our rookie year, and it was pretty ugly there at the end when everybody was hurt and we were playing 4th and 5th stringers, this could be a place where we could set up roots. This is a place where we could think about, you know, life after this rookie contract. And I think that's good, because that motivates guys to play better so they earn that big payday down the road.
All right, that's the voice of Nick Padone. In for Ken Carman today, Mary Kay Cabot, plaindealercleveland.com. She joins us in about 12 or so minutes. So yesterday, you had your quarterback competition, and by most accounts, it was not a good one for either quarterback. But the edge went to Shedeur. It sounds, from most, it had more to do with really how bad Deshaun Watson was, the 2 interceptions. But we've litigated that, and we'll get into that with Mary Kay Cabot. After practice, there was the video making the rounds, and I already tweeted it like 15 times, and people said, Lima won't mention this. Lima hates Shedeur Sanders. He won't talk about the leadership that Shedeur Sanders shown that maybe the previous quarterbacks were unable to do so. And sure enough, Shedeur Sanders staying after practice with rookie quarterback Taylon Green. I thought it was a nice moment. You know, that's well after practice, and the people that were able to hang around and take note of it. And I think that the misconception when it comes to Shedeur, like, and I've been adamant about this, like, Shedeur seems like a great kid. He is, every time I ever hear him talk, there's a microphone in front of him, whether or not it's his film crew or it is, you know, the media's, is an unbridled enthusiasm and positivity. In fact, his negativity comes from when he doesn't like questions from the media. Like, right. he'll call out the media immediately, saying that's a divisive question. Even when I think they're innocuous, that doesn't fly with him. And I think that is a good message. I remember when Conan O'Brien's last show on Turner, his last message was, don't be cynical. And I watched that. He's like, be a good person. Don't be cynical. And I'm like, man, I feel like he's judging me. I feel like I'm as cynical as it gets when it comes to my life and how I live my life. But it is words to live by. Like, you want to be optimistic, and I feel like that's the one thing about Shedeur that you certainly can't take away from him. I'll never criticize him for that, and I love seeing that with Taylon Green, working with him. I also saw people say, well, you know, after he was left for dead by the Browns last year, they never did anything like this for him last year. I'm like, I don't know, what happened to the hungry dog period? You know, yeah. Kevin Stefanski, he never told anybody until the end, you know, the end of the season. Like, it wasn't like he was volunteering the information so to curry favor with the Sanders family or anything like that, because we know Deion Dion constantly retweets how bad of a coach, Kevin Stefanski is. Any of the Shedeur cronies that put out that messaging about Stefanski and how bad he was, what Prime thinks about it because he retweets it. With that said, Kevin did go out of his way during the season to work with Shedeur because he wasn't getting the reps. And I think he probably did feel bad about the setup, which wasn't even Kevin's fault. The fact that there were 4 quarterbacks, in camp and they were all dividing the reps. It was a terrible ass-backwards way to develop 2 rookie quarterbacks. It was terrible.
Made no sense at the time. We all said it at the time, too. That there's no way that you could have a 4-man quarterback competition. And the fact that they continued to sell it like that, and then remember we had Daryl saying, well, really, it's only a 2-man quarterback. I hate everything about that last offseason.
Yeah, this is a step up from that.
This definitely is a step up because at least that it's Sanders and Watson competing with one another for the starting quarterback position. But that third is going to be an interesting spot because, there's only going to be 1 starter and you're only going to keep 2 other ones. There's 4 guys in the room. You're going to cut a top 100 draft pick in Dylan Gabriel, or is some of this extra attention seemingly going to Taylon Green? I don't mind it. I don't mind Taylon Green getting a little extra love.
Yeah, I mean, he is such a project. We were talking about when he came here, they had even mentioned, hey, could he do punt return? Could he play wide receiver? I said that Terrell Pryor, if day 1 he came into the league and was a wide receiver, I think he would have made a lot more money. I think he would have had a lot more of an impact. I know it's now it's labeled a lot of things when you say a talented quarterback in college should play a different position. There is coded language with some of the old heads in the NFL. I remember that with Lamar Jackson. And yeah, that sounded ridiculous. Lamar is unbelievable. But a guy like this who was drafted where he was drafted, I think he's got to be open. But I want to get back to Shedeur here before we go. And I know we got Mary Kay around the corner. This is the stuff about Shedeur that does give him a chance to stick in the league. Not necessarily if it's not a starting quarterback. You do have to be able to show that you can take the younger players, help them out. And I thought it was a great moment. I don't know what the future is going to hold for Shedeur, but you do take notice of stuff like that. That's what keeps you in the league. But there's a reason Brian Hoyer was able to stick in the league and make the money that he was able to make. And I've seen his house up there in the Northeast. It's a good setup. Well, it's because he was able to do stuff like that, not necessarily being able to throw the football. So that stuff, they do pay attention to. When we come back, I know Mary Kay Cabot was paying attention to that and so much more. We will get her breakdown. We know it was a losing day for Deshaun Watson. Was it a winning day for Shedeur Sanders? That's all straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lima for Mentality.
Joey Cantillo got the start, 4 scoreless innings, struck out 8. Guardians bullpen giving up just 1 run over the final 5 innings. Get all the latest Browns content filtered right to your phone during training camp by following the Browns playlist and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Mary Kay Cabot, Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com. So excited to join us on the Weishart Right. We Make It Right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. Anthony Lima, Nick Padone in for Ken Carman today. And I saw the charts yesterday. I saw all the breakdowns. We heard from Daryl Ryder earlier in the show. Mary Kay, is this quarterback competition over? Is Shedeur Sanders the winner after one day?
No. That is such a gross overreaction to one day of football practice. And I think you really have to break it down and keep in mind what goes on during a certain practice and what the philosophy is for your quarterbacks. And right now, and I even wrote this heading into training camp, that is the fact that you've got to let your quarterbacks make mistakes, air it out a little bit, be aggressive. And that was the number one assignment that when I wrote some things heading in that I thought that Deshaun needed to do. I felt he was afraid to make mistakes in spring ball, and you can't play that way, especially when you're trying to find out where you are coming off of some injuries and things like that. So you've got to do that. And they were also working on some things yesterday that don't necessarily lend themselves to a big explosive practice. It was quick game and third and mediums. And then another factor is Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward did not practice in spring ball, and he just made a great play on that ball yesterday. So these are all factors, but this is the time and this is the place to push the limits and to see what you're capable of.
All right, Mary Kay, we know yesterday was Deshaun Watson Day. Everybody online, I'll self-report as well, kind of jumped on Deshaun because he threw the back-to-back interceptions. What did you see from Deshaun yesterday? We obviously know the interceptions were thrown. There's obviously context around those. What did you make of his first training camp back, kind of as like QB1 of the Browns for yesterday before Shedeur gets his opportunity today?
Once again, you can make of it as much as you want or as little as you want. And I just don't think that in a non-padded practice on the first day of training camp that you can read way too much into what you're seeing out there. We've seen phenomenal training camp performances and great training camp preseason games by quarterbacks, and they haven't turned out to be anything. So what's happening right now, it's installation. They were installing those things that we talked about before. Quick game, third and medium. And then once again, I did hear Aaron Rodgers say the other day, now is the time to make some mistakes and to push it a little bit and see what you can do. Then you also have to consider who you're throwing it to and maybe their performance on the other end of your pass. So it's not that I'm making excuses. It's just that this is a training camp practice. That's why they're calling it camp. That's why they're calling it practice. This is not a game. And I think there is an overreaction to those back-to-back picks.
Did you notice anything about the way that they were working in the second team, the rookies, the young guys, the offensive line, and obviously they're going to probably flip the script for today?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I actually did expect that Spencer Fano especially would be working with the first team at left tackle because, once again, that opener is coming at them fast, September 13th in Jacksonville. And I watched Joe Thomas practice as a rookie, and he was not alternating days, if I recall correctly. It was a long time ago, but I think he was the left tackle right from the start. And, they weren't alternating him with anybody. But lo and behold, we get out there, and DeJuan Jones was at left tackle. And now we come to find out that those guys, Spencer Fano and DeJuan Jones, are going to be alternating days, at least in the early going of camp. So I think that's very interesting. I think it's good for DeJuan. It gives him a chance to say, hey, I should be out here as one of your starting five. I think he's in the mix for that. And it also gives Spencer a little bit of time to get his sea legs, but that was unexpected as far as I was concerned.
Mary Kay, with that offensive line and trying to identify the fifth starter, I guess I didn't personally factor DeJuan Jones into that math just because I kind of assumed, Fano was going to be the left tackle, Titus Howard was going to be the right tackle, and we were kind of looking at that starting center spot. How's that going to come along? Obviously, Elton Jenkins could play center or guard. Parker Brailsford, the fifth-round pick, is going to compete to play a little bit of center too. How do you think that fifth offensive line spot could come along here?
Well, the puzzle pieces have to fit together correctly. That's what has to happen. And in this camp, nobody has seen these guys with pads on yet. So you can have a good offensive line on paper and think it's going to work out a certain kind of way, and it might not be that. And I think that's what you're seeing right now with DeJuan. He came on so strong in spring ball that I think they might try to find a place for him in the starting lineup, or at least he's a candidate for that. So, good for him. He's worked hard. He's had some injuries, and now he still has a chance to go out and be a starter, whether it's early in the season or somewhere else in the season. As far as the other places like center and right guard, those are still up for grabs depending on what happens at some of the other spots. I mean, if you're going to be starting Shedeur Sanders, you have to ask yourself, do you want a rookie left tackle and a rookie center, or do you want to go with more of a veteran presence there, someone who could help slide the protections and do certain things that maybe a second-year quarterback, one who's only started 7 games, might not be up for some of that responsibility. So that would then inform or dictate what happens at right guard. If Elton Jenkins doesn't start at center, then he's a candidate to start at right guard. So they have to figure out how it all goes. And even when they do, even when they settle upon what they believe is their starting 5, then they have to put it out on the grass in a real game and see how it holds up. So I've been saying I think there's a world in which the starting 5 in week 1 might not be the starting 5 in week 4.
Mary Kay Cabot joined us on the hotline. I remember when Kevin Stefanski took over the first few practices, the thought from the reporters, the people who go to this stuff every year, was that it was very professional-like, it was orderly. Now we remember what happened in the very first game. It didn't go so well for Kevin, but by and large, I think that was what people thought early on. What did you think of the very first Todd Monken practice, including what did you think of his demeanor?
Well, we've been watching him in OTAs and minicamp, so nothing was a surprise to us. He's very vocal in practice. He's very animated. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. The practice, a lot of people will talk about, this practice, this guy runs this kind of practice, and this guy runs that kind of practice. For the most part, they all look a lot alike. These guys are all in the same business. They've coached together in some cases, in other places. And there's only so much you can do with an 11-on-11 drill or a football practice. So you will see differences and nuances. But for the most part, it's a well-run, organized, intense football practice. But I felt like Kevin's were the same.
Mary Kay, off the field, we've gotten some huge Browns news over the last 2 days. Obviously, Denzel Ward a couple of days ago, Grant Delpit yesterday, and you reported yesterday that the Cleveland Browns could have some serious interest in a reunion with Jadeveon Clowney. Now, we obviously remember how poorly Clowney's time with the Browns ended back in 2022, even season bled over into 2023 when he was upset with his usage and Joe Wood's scheme and all of that stuff. How do you think a reunion with Jadeveon Clowney could potentially work for the Browns?
Well, I actually think it would be a really great signing for the Browns if they can make it happen. There are other teams interested. I think Seattle is in the mix. I think Houston, where Jadeveon lives and played before, is still in the mix. But we know Todd Monken likes him. They were together in 2023 in Baltimore. That's when he saw firsthand Jadeveon Clowney notch 9.5 sacks over there. That came after he had only 2 in 2022 here, which, of course, as you guys might remember, he told me in a one-on-one interview in the locker room that year that he felt that was in part because of how he was used, and sometimes Miles would get the favorable matchup, including once in a Ravens game where they flip-flopped them, and Jadeveon had to go against Ronnie Stanley instead of Miles doing that. So he was upset, and he wanted people to know why he only had 2 sacks that year. He wanted people to know that he still had plenty left in the tank. And he went out and showed that in his next 3 stops. He had 9.5, 5.5 with Carolina. And then he had a Cowboys leading 8.5 last year. So he's had 23.5 sacks since he's left here. He worked out hard in the offseason. I think he would be a great compliment to Jared Verse. Now, it might not be as easy as it sounds to try to get him wrapped up. There are other considerations that these guys have to think about. There are family considerations, where people want to live and all of that. But I think they're going to try. I think they're going to try to get this done. And, of course, if they can, they'd like to have it done sooner than later.
Well, I think LeBron James shows us you don't necessarily have to live and work in the same place. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney could come in every day from somewhere else, maybe helicopter in. I do wonder, Mary Kay, we know how it ended with Jadeveon Clowney. I was a little surprised that there could be a potential reunion just based on some of, controversy. You know, they want the culture to be a certain way with Miles out, new defensive coordinator. Is this the type of guy you want to bring in when he's basically been a mercenary, new team every year?
Well, the thing to remember with Jadeveon is that he got along with all the guys when he was here back in 2021 and 2022. He got along with everyone. He was, somebody that you would see a bunch of different guys huddled around during training camp. They'd be laughing and yucking it up. His issue, of course, was mostly with Myles Garrett. He felt like, the vibe was to make sure that Myles was getting his production at the expense of him and others. And so he did not like that, and he finally just spoke up about it leading into that final game of the season. But other than that, now that Myles is gone, that opens the door for Jadeveon to come back. That was really the only issue that year.
Mary Kay, when you look at the new contracts, the extensions that Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit signed, what do you think that says? The Browns keep telling us that they're not rebuilding. Trading Myles Garrett kind of signaled to a lot of people, okay, maybe they are rebuilding. It's a lot of draft picks. Jared Verse is a young player. But they took care of 2 of their own guys for the second time in their Browns careers with Ward and Delpit. What do you think that message says?
Well, first of all, I do think that it says that, no, we are not messing around here. We're not throwing in any towel. We are going out and trying to win this year as many games as we possibly can, and we're trying to keep this defense at a very, very high level for the foreseeable future. These guys are under contract through 2029, and in that time frame, the Browns are hoping to win a lot of football games. In fact, they're opening a new stadium in 2029. They need some goodwill amongst their fan base. They need to get to the playoffs. They need some victories. And they feel that these 2 guys are still cornerstones of their defense, of their secondary. They're leaders. They're their draft picks. Denzel Ward is obviously from here. And when you lose guys like Joel Bitonio over the years, face of the franchise kind of guys like that, Nick Chubb was in that category. You want to keep those kinds of guys that are ingrained in the fabric of your fan base. And these 2 guys certainly fit the bill on that. And I think it says, look, we brought Jared Verse here this year. We wrapped up these 2 guys. We are going out there to try to maintain our standards on defense.
I already saw yesterday, right after practice, you, Lima, and the media won't bring up that Shedeur was taking the time after practice to work with Taylor Green. So, Mary Kay, you're in the media. I'm in the media. I thought it was a cool moment. I thought it demonstrated some leadership, and I have nothing to criticize there, Mary Kay. Wasn't that a pretty cool thing to see?
Yeah, it was a cool thing to see. And those little snapshots that you see of a player doing things like that, you can find out a lot about a person and a player when you see some of the off-camera or off-book things like that. And I think it's important to note those things and bring those things up. I actually didn't see it going on live. We have some immediate post-practice responsibilities, and so I didn't actually see it happening. But I did see it going on social media, and I did think it was pretty cool. And I've seen a number of things like that from Shedeur that you don't necessarily see in the course of a practice, or maybe you see some things through some binoculars that you wouldn't have otherwise seen or noticed. But I did think it was a cool moment, and I'm sure very much appreciated by Taylor Green.
All right, Mary Kay, we appreciate it. Enjoy life out there as the transformation has. I don't think I'm going to see you walking around on the west side anymore. You got to be at practice every day and getting those reports in. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot on the Weishart Right. We make it right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. Boy, very interesting. I mocked Nick Padone earlier for a headline that he may or may not have been responsible for, but Mary Kay echoing the sentiments. No rebuild here. Want to revisit that when we come back here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lima for
year. We're not throwing in any towel. We are going out and trying to win this year as many games as we possibly can, and we're trying to keep this defense at a very high level for the foreseeable future. These guys are under contract through 2029, and in that time frame, the Browns are hoping to win a lot of football games. In fact, they're opening a new stadium in 2029. They need some goodwill amongst their fan base. They need to get to the playoffs. They need some victories, and they feel that these two guys are still cornerstones of their defense.
Mary Kay Cabot moments ago, if you missed it, as always, make sure you have that Odyssey app, hit the rewind function. How could you ever miss out on Mary Kay each and every week at that time? Boy, I feel like I'm outnumbered here because I went on the attack earlier in the show. I found a headline, and I'm like, who would write such a thing that the Browns, with signing Delpit, signing Denzel Ward to an extension, I'm like, man, this is weird. It's a rebuild. And I go, who wrote this headline? And it was you, Nick Padone, on SI. You wrote the headline, or maybe your editor did, or maybe you did it because you are the editor. And I'm like, now, Mary Kay will have some sense. She knows they're in a rebuild. No rebuild for the Browns. So this is, I think, where Zach Jackson came on yesterday and was like, this is clunky. This doesn't make sense. You're either in a rebuild or you're not. I will say the NFL is a very different league because in the NBA, when you are rebuilding and you are throwing out the basketballs to a bunch of young players, you just aren't going to win. You just flat out aren't going to win. It's why the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals defied everything but Victor Wembanyama, and there's only 5 guys on the floor, and he plays like 3 defensive players. So you can't really equate it to the NFL. In the NFL, Seattle Seahawks were young. They just won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And, you know, the New England Patriots were a total train wreck. And they are very young. And they were just in the Super Bowl. Now, we know Drake May's pretty good. Sam Darnold was the number 1 overall, you know, or was a top draft pick. But we didn't see that. So, you know, you can be surprised in the NFL. So I want to hesitate before I throw out such declaratives. But I still want to say the Browns are clearly in a rebuild. So where am I going wrong?
I think that this is them signaling that, like, we're exiting the rebuild. Because I think they've been, these last 2 years, even though they've repeated ad nauseum that they weren't rebuilding, they were. They had the number 2 pick in the draft. They could have had Travis Hunter, who at the time was being lauded as this once-in-a-generation, do-it-all, could play both ways, Heisman Trophy winner. They bailed out of that spot to get an extra draft pick, and they drafted a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That was a tanking move.
They didn't take the sexy, what we thought was a win-now player, although I was not nearly as high on Travis Hunter as I thought. The talk of him got ridiculous. Generational talent. The guy wasn't even good at either position last year, but he was going to be a generational
talent. And then
talent.
This year's draft, similar thing plays out. The Browns have 2 glaring needs: wide receiver, offensive tackle. They're about to be on the clock with the pick of the litter of any of those options that they want, sans Carnell Tate, who went 4 to Tennessee. What do? They bail out again. And then this offseason, a couple months after the draft, they trade Myles Garrett for Jared Verse, and they get 3 future draft picks to go with it. So I think that Myles Garrett trade might have been the final move of the rebuild, if you will. And this, Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, back-to-back days, and then Jadeveon Clowney randomly is involved too.
This does throw a wrench, because if you're rebuilding like I think they are, you're not signing a veteran mercenary.
No way. You're giving that roster spot to Logan Fano and hoping that he's.
Well, that's a great point.
Julian Okwara, gets that roster spot. If you're truly rebuilding, that goes to another young guy. So she also made a really fascinating point, Lima.
Well, she's Mary Kay.
About opening the stadium in 2029. Because I think a lot of people, and this is something that's kind of driven me a little bit nuts in the Browns discourse. A lot of people have just reserved to saying, well, the Browns don't care about anything until 2029. In 2029, they'll have that new stadium, and that's when they want to get good. Guys, they've got to sell the PSLs now. They've got to sell the premium seating for that building.
Did you put your deposit in yet?
I'm still working on it.
He said it's either that or the WNBA. He doesn't know where he's going to.
I don't know which one. It's a flip a coin. to Romeo Cornell.
What are you waiting for on the WNBA side of things?
Could have news next week.
I gotta know what their name's gonna be.
Yeah,
I want to know.
Yeah, news coming soon on that front. What about? There's a whole little Caitlin Clark free agency thing that's gonna time up really nicely.
I'll pivot right now. I'll get out of this Browns talk now. If we're talking Caitlin Clark free agency, watch. We'll get the clock going right now.
You guys heard what she said about Cleveland when Iowa was in town for that women's Final Four, did we not? She compared it to her hometown. She said she feels at home here.
All right, we need a the rest of the show. We need a sounder. We need a new Caitlin Clark free agency bonanza extravaganza 2000 what year?
Yeah, Caitlin Clark watch.
Caitlin Clark watch. Anyway, so I'm hearing what you're saying, and so now I'm wondering if they just don't. They're going to let the season dictate. So if you start out 4-1, if you're the Colts from last year, right? Daniel Jones was firing on all cylinders. What did they start out last year? But they were the talk of football.
They had like 7 or 8 wins at the deadline. Remember, they buy Sauce Gardner. That turns out to probably be
yeah.
I don't know if that if I want to say the wrong move, because Sauce Gardner is still pretty good, but you gave up a lot and you finished the season really bad because Daniel Jones goes down.
They were 7-1 to start out the season, and they were 8-2, and then they proceeded to almost lose out until the final week of the year.
Brutal. Brutal.
So you can, in the NFL, kind of let things play out where, all right, we're going to throw this patchwork offensive line that we've addressed. Who knows if it actually fixes the offensive line. Can't be worse, right? It can't be worse than last year. You've got all these young skill position players, and maybe they come out of the gates. I know they have all the road games to start out the season, but maybe you come out of the gates and you play good football at the start. And then you guys can all look back at how I led the show today with all that cynicism and negativity that unfortunately permeates this world at times that I allowed to penetrate my Browns conversation. And you can go, Lima, that's why you've got to believe. You've got to be positive.
I don't want you to go that far yet, because the one thing that I think Browns fan can be cynical about is what we started the show with. It's the quarterback. It's the most important position. And that's what makes this whole rebuild that they've gone through and that maybe they believe they're exiting so fascinating is really, you could look at this roster, and we messed around with Nick Wilson yesterday and did the exercise. There is good starting talent in a lot of spots on this roster. The quarterback position is a huge question mark, though, and that's the most important position. So how's this year look with all of this young talent? I think a lot of it depends on what kind of quarterback play that you're getting. And if the quarterback play is really bad, how are we going to judge Casey Concepcion if they can't get him the ball deep down the field? How are we going to judge Quinshon Judkins if the offensive line falls apart by the bye? There is a lot of ifs and buts that still need to materialize here for that optimism to ring true. But I do think the Browns are signaling to us that they're close to finishing the rebuild.
Yeah, I it's hard for me. Look, their 5.5 is their win total in Vegas.
And I think that's the right number. Like, I'm not sitting here spewing all of this optimism that's for sure going over. They could potentially start Deshaun Watson week 1. You don't know that could lead to 6 games. 6 wins? That could be a hard number to reach with that dude at quarterback.
I said I would try to have an open mind on the quarterback thing, but unequivocally, it was pretty clear yesterday that the guy who has looked terrible since you traded for him, he looked terrible again. I know it's silly. It's one practice. I saw Mahomes struggling. Did you see the Marvin Harrison Jr. drop montage yesterday? It's getting worse. Every time I see the poor kid, it looks like he wants to do anything else but try to follow in his dad's footsteps. It's just one day at camp, but it flat out didn't look good for one of the quarterbacks, and really, according to Daryl, didn't look good for either of the quarterbacks. 216-474-0092. I promise I've got guys on hold. One wants to fire at the media for what has been said about one quarterback versus the other. I can't wait to take these calls. And is there a double standard in this town? We dump on the teams that win. We want to be positive on the team that loses. I'll explain when we come back. Plus, a gambling controversy in one of the leagues. You know I love a good gambling controversy. That's all straight ahead. Final hour of the show. Next, Lima and Padone in for Ken Carman, Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
This is an Odyssey. Fan.
It wasn't a great day for Deshaun. I don't think it was a great day for the quarterbacks in general. Denzel made a great play on the second one, just a poorly thrown football from Deshaun, and it was back-to-back plays, too. I actually had to check myself. I feel like I just watched the same play. First day of camp, certainly expect the defense to make more plays than the offense, but when you're talking about being in a quarterback competition, you got to have the A game every day, and this is kind of what I have been talking about, the consistently inconsistentness of these quarterbacks. The wow moments, the good throws, followed by the yeesh, I can't believe I just saw that throws. Todd Monken saying he's got 2 NFL starting caliber quarterbacks on this roster, I think is very gracious and generous.
All right, that was Daryl, our Browns beat reporter, who was on the scene yesterday. No, he wasn't charting, but he was filming, he was diagnosing, he was putting his notes together.
And he was on YouTube with Coach Lance afterward.
It is a thing of beauty.
You got to go there every day. You got to check it out.
It is a must. I'm being dead serious. Lance, I got the full report from Coach Riz, who I'll be on with tomorrow. He thought Shedeur was solid. Because I said, Coach, thank you for the 2,000 words, but I need to go on the radio. What do I say about Shedeur? He says, solid.
Well, that's one word.
That's just one word. So if he was solid and Deshaun Watson was...
Hold on, I have a word for Deshaun.
Oh, good. Go.
Bad. That's my word.
I saw worse descriptors than bad yesterday.
Yeah, I did too. I'm putting it as nicely as we're allowed to.
Horrendous.
You're allowed to go further if you'd like.
Yeah, and you can use more words. It doesn't have to be just one. Like, if you were to say 5 words, doesn't belong in the league. That's 5 words.
I could do one word for that. Unplayable.
Right. And look, I said I would be fair.
2 words.
Now, you know what? I got to stop. I got to stop this because I just said last segment I was going to be fair. I was going to be open-minded.
But it's the one thing. Why did they do this to us with the quarterback spot? Because the rest of the roster you could sell yourself on. Why is the quarterback journey
of 2022?
That is really what it is.
But why are we doing that?
Those seeds, and now the fruit is here.
The Broncos gave you a blueprint, though. Follow what they did. The Seahawks gave you a blueprint. Follow what they did. Do anything other than put Deshaun Watson back on the field.
What did you say
That's where I'm at.
What was happening in the world the last time he was good at football?
The last time forget about being good at football because the Texans won 4 games. But the last time he finished a season, the COVID pandemic hadn't hit yet. We had no idea what COVID-19 was. And the league had not expanded their schedule yet from 16 to 17 games. The last time he finished a season, he finished 16 games. He's never finished a full 17-game season.
Now, wait a second.
Since the league made that change years ago.
I watched the news yesterday and congressional hearings. COVID seemed like it was just yesterday. I was just watching it. It was just yesterday. We're still dealing with this. Anyway, 216-474-0092. Look, to be fair, to add context, right? We need to have context. What did Mary Kay? She said that
we didn't know. We didn't know the theme of the practice or something like that.
She said Denzel Ward made a fantastic play. The interception that the next one, because it was back-to-back, belly-to-belly interceptions from Deshaun Watson. That's the thing. You can't throw back-to-back picks in a real NFL game because maybe he would have by now if he would have gotten another chance to do it. But in practice, you could throw 3 in a row if the drill is not going according to plan. But the second interception was just horrendous.
Daryl's point about this being a quarterback competition that now has bled over into training camp, you've got to be good all the time. There are no bad days, because if there's a bad day, it's magnified. We are going to do this. And Lima, if he starts stockpiling these bad days...
That's us, though. That's us, though. What is Todd Monken doing? Is he being more reasonable? Is he trying to have a longer leash?
Probably a little bit more reasonable. Sure, probably there have been moments this morning where we've overreacted to what happened on the practice field with Deshaun yesterday, but in a vacuum, the guy threw back-to-back interceptions. Doesn't matter. There's going to be a good defensive back on the Ravens that'll make a play when you go to Baltimore and play them. Cincinnati, I know they retooled that defense. There's going to be a defensive back on the Bengals that finds a way to jump a ball and make a play. That's football. You can't have these mistakes snowballing, though. So for him to throw back-to-back stockpile, you're going to have people. I'm not saying I'm doing it. Not yet, at least. If these bad days for Watson start stockpiling, you're going to have more and more people planting the Shedeur Sanders flags all over the place.
All right, I want to get to the phones here. 216-474-0092. Before a little bit later on, we're going to get to, is there a double standard in this town when it comes to the teams and how we talk about them? Trent in Fort Worth, Texas. Been waiting a long time. What's up, Trent? We will have to revisit that. Vince in Virginia. You're next up on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. What's up, Vince?
Good morning, Anthony.
Yeah.
I need for you, if you could, to answer a question.
Oh, boy.
Dylan Gabriel and Jerry Jeudy, I don't think either one of them should be on the team. Do you think it's best for the Browns to just cut both of them? Because I think Jerry Jeudy's the worst receiver in the Browns' receiving room, and Dylan Gabriel.
The worst?
He's the worst. He's a cancer in the locker room. He's unaccountable.
Well, okay. I'm not in the locker room, so I can't speak to that. I do know that it would have appeared, if you believed the editing and believed the framing of a video that came out on social media earlier this week, that he was playing favorites with the quarterbacks. Now, I do think, like, every receiver probably has a quarterback they would prefer. Jeudy has not outwardly said that he prefers one, so I want to be fair to him. But he has spent more time with Deshaun Watson, and I think it's not a huge leap to believe that he likes Watson over Shedeur, who he also got into it with on the sidelines last year. That happens. It's the NFL. I'm not going to condemn anybody involved with that. I just think he sucks. Like he was a terrible wide receiver last year. I get that the quarterback situation wasn't ideal for wide receivers, but Harold Fannin made the most of it.
Right.
Jerry Jeudy certainly did not.
Right. And do you think that we can get rid of Gabriel and send him to Atlanta since they're having quarterback problems and Stefanski supposedly loves him? He could be, I guess, a stopgap, and possibly we can get a late-round draft.
I know. Well, thank you very much for the call. Padone, yesterday we had that breaking news where it was like, wait a second. Do we have a taker? Do we have, with our relationship with Kevin Stefanski, could we be shipping Dylan Gabriel to Atlanta given their rocky start to their season with the injuries at quarterback?
That fun lasted about 30 seconds. Stefanski said that Tua's injured. It's not a long-term injury. Michael Penix Jr. still recovering from last year's injury. He's not competing. And I was like, oh, man, we might have found a taker. And then like 15 seconds later, Adam Schefter drops that the Falcons signed Cooper Rush, veteran journeyman, backup third-string kind of guy to have in the room. Jack Strand. I also did a little bit of research after the show. Undrafted free agent that Atlanta picked up last year. So even if they trade for Gabriel, he's going to be in a Jack Strand versus Cooper Rush competition with the Falcons. So I don't know if that's as clean as I wanted it to be yesterday morning.
Just the name, Jack Strand. That sounds like a legendary quarterback from the 50s or the 60s. They were led down the field. A gale force winds the unrelenting waves of Lake Erie, and Jack Strand was able to mount the comeback that the kids enjoyed by the radio and the fireplace. I don't think he's going to probably ultimately be that good, but it's Jack Strand. I want to go to Trent. We're going to try to reestablish contact with Trent. How are you, Trent?
Yeah. Hey, what's up, man? Listen, since Shedeur got drafted, I rushed to the city for the sports radio station, and I seen you on air. And we connected real quick because New York, I lived in Buffalo and in Brooklyn, grew with the Italians my whole life, 2 Italian kids. I said, this is my guy. But then you let me down, man, because of this. Listen, you guys haven't won in a while. You remind me of Buffalo in a sense. But the way you're going about it, like, I really feel bad for Shedeur. I'm not one of his crazy fans. I would like to see him get a chance and succeed. Last year, he did the best he could, and even you guys said he wasn't set up in the right position, or Gabriel was. But now here he is. And I listen every day and watch his natural sport. He's done nothing. You had worse guys who committed crimes. And this guy is just a happy, aloof guy who was born into luxury because of Deion, but Deion did good with his kids. Now, if he had the attitude of Shiloh, you guys could hammer him. He doesn't do anything.
wait, what's your problem? Hold on, real quick, Trent. What's your problem with Shiloh?
Oh, no. Shiloh's more out there. He'll tell you how you feel. He'll give you tons of reasons to hate him, but I like him too. But I'm just saying. And I see you guys at the smart market town, which you're not, but you act like it sometimes, of how you're doing this quarterback deal. This is not Shador's problem. It's not going to be Dylan's problem, Watson's problem. But I will say this. I'm sticking around because, one, I like you guys, but two, I want to see this draft pick. You guys are putting so much pressure on this savior quarterback, and he could be a bust. It happens all the time. I'm mad at the ownership. You guys aren't joking at Andrew Berry. Yes, he had, a few good drafts. He shouldn't be off the hook because guess what? This Deshaun Watson experiment, a guy, it's almost like trying to freaking put an old car together that used to be good and repairing it and trying to put it in the race. I don't think he should win this competition. I don't think he's even close, but we're going to find out. But why are you laying your eggs on him? Because you're paying him $40 million? You want to see an investment, a return? I get it. But Shador's right there. This is his first real chance. If he fails, it's on him. But my goodness, I think they're going to start Watson just because they owe him money, not because of what he can do.
Well, we do not. If you want to go after me, even better. I love that. I don't disagree with basically anything. I don't know anything about Shiloh, so I didn't know that. That he was that drastically
different. He's more outspoken, for sure. Like, he does like the Twitch streams and stuff, so he's definitely out there a little bit more than Shador.
And I'm sure he's taken up for Shador.
Yeah.
You know, that's your brother. I'd hope you would do that.
Yeah.
You know, ask Aaron Rodgers how that's worked out in the family, in the past. But in this case, like, I'm trying to be as fair. I know I don't sound like it because of the fans and the crazies that are. And I've never seen anything like it. We've dealt with crazies before with quarterbacks. I've never dealt with the Shador fans and the Shador mania and the phenomena that is the Shador fans. I think it's cool that he has a fan base like that. Like, that's got to be unbelievable. And, Shador's been famous for a long time. He's huge on social media. But none of that matters when he goes to the facility today and tries to win a quarterback competition. None of that other stuff that we comment on because it's all the extracurricular over the offseason, whether it's the film cruise or the rap song, which keeps coming up. By the way, maybe I'm a closet Shador music fan. It keeps coming up on my whatever apps I have.
The new one?
Yeah, the new one
song?
comes up. Because you can have the AI DJ.
Yeah.
And dude, it keeps coming up.
They want you to try it out.
He's it. They say his name is the algorithm. He is the algorithm. I can't escape it. I thought the song was good. I got criticized for even saying the song sounded like Drake. So that's what we're dealing with. But his fans, they have attacked because they just want us to say he's good.
Right.
And
great even.
And legendary. And like, dude, maybe he will be.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's a quarterback competition. Would I bet that he's going to emerge out of this and prevent them from drafting a quarterback? Man, he will have to play so well. It's almost unfair. Like, it almost is unfair because he's a 5th-round pick. Had he have been, this is the difference, a 1st-round pick or maybe even a 2nd, had they have made that kind of investment in him, then maybe that bar wouldn't be the same. But it's the reality. We all understand the world we're living in and the crop of quarterbacks next year. And the Browns have 2 first-round picks. The Jets have 3. There's a reason that these teams want to get in on next year's draft class. It's up to Shador to play their way out of it. And that's going to be a very tough hill to climb. But if he does it, what a great story. How amazing. It solves all of our problems. I think it would be incredible. And then you guys all get to call every day and do the I told you so's. Who's not listening to that? 216-474-0092. We do have a crazy gambling story that has exploded in one of the leagues. We'll get to that. Plus, a double standard in how we talk about Cleveland sports. I noticed something yesterday. That's straight ahead. Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Don't
no one expects anything of you. I think as a Browns fan, I think it's time to kick our feet up, embrace whatever happens. Whatever outcome comes of this is good. If they end up winning 3 games and get the number 2 pick, you're going to get your quarterback.
Yeah, no, but in the process, if they only win 3 games and I get my quarterback, I'm excited about that, then week 12 is a tough go.
Well, okay. But again, like,
that's where like the happiness, like my next 7 months, the happiness, a lot of it can be derived of what happens in the next 6 weeks.
But if that's where you expect it to go, how can you be unhappy with it?
Well, let me count the ways. That was Nick Wilson yesterday on the afternoon show. Hey, he had me invested. I was shouting at my radio, and when I saw that clip emerge on social media, and it brought me to wondering, because I have said in the past, I want to be fair here, I have said in the past, hey, it's good to have no expectations because then it's easier to meet them. Like, you know, when you go into a season, and if your expectations are Guardians win the World Series, you've been to the playoffs, win the World Series, well, you're going to be miserable by the end of the year, most likely. In fact, 100% of the time since 1948, you've been miserable. Okay, Cavs, if you go into the year saying, hey, it's championship or bust, how do we think the season's going to end?
Probably disappointing.
And I was as optimistic as I could be going into the playoffs. Did I think they could win the championship? No. No, I didn't think the Knicks could win either.
Right.
And I knew a lot of New York fans that didn't think they could win. And they did. So you never know. Sports are rapidly evolving. But I do wonder about the double standard. And I believe it's been a theme for many years here, not just on this station, but in town. You've done a lot of gigs. We're all over the place. How people talk about these teams, because Nick was so passionate about, let's be positive. It's training camp. Why be snarky? Who knows? It's football. It's the NFL. But I'm like, would you ever give that grace to the basketball team?
Well, it is tough with him specifically because a short couple of months ago, like literally just a couple of months ago, like I feel like you and me were probably the biggest of anybody on the Cavs. Like I thought they could potentially win the championship going into the postseason.
Wow.
Just
Okay.
because of how wide open the Eastern Conference was. You didn't have Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers. The Celtics kind of got thrown back together in the 11th hour when Tatum got cleared. Like I thought there was a genuine path to at least get to the finals. I thought the West is going to be the West with the Thunder and the Spurs, and it was the Thunder and the Spurs at the end. I didn't have the Knicks making it, though. I thought it was open for the taking for the Cavs, but we were met, Tone, with so much Cavs negativity from afternoon drive. Like they were talking about at one point, like, do the NBA playoffs even matter if you don't win the championship? That kind of maybe feels like a double standard because like last year was frustrating from the Cavs lens of you had this opportunity and it feels like it was squandered. And for that, I am very frustrated. And I guess for that, we have to give Nick his flowers. He was right. You know, at the end of the day, they didn't win the championship. And a lot of people did have at least those hopes, even though they weren't real expectations. This Brown season, they're like trying to sell people on this Brown season, though, is completely different. You knew the Cavs were going to go to the playoffs, and they were going to make some noise when they were in there. How far they went was to be determined. This Brown season, Vegas has them at 5.5 wins. They might genuinely win less than 5 games.
I mean, the afternoon show had them at 7, 8, or 9 wins. So, look, I think it's delusional. I think it's just, hey, we've got a football team to talk about, so let's be optimistic. And that makes it more fun for us. I just don't think that's rooted in any kind of, I don't want to say what I was going to say because that would be mean. That would be a cheap shot. I just don't think it's rooted in fact. I just don't think you could look at this team. How many teams swap out the entire offensive line and then play this many young guys? I don't care how talented they are. Play this many young guys and then have that quarterback room and expect to win 7, 8, or 9 games when you lost Myles Garrett. That seems just ridiculous. And I like Jared Verse. I think they did as well as you could possibly do in a trade. I wanted the trade because I thought it made sense for the rebuild.
Yeah, and I think like there are things about this season I'm excited about. I'm excited to see how the line comes together. I'm excited to see Quinshawn. I'm excited to see the 2 young receivers. I'm excited to see Jared Verse and really what level of a replacement is he to Myles Garrett. But when we're discussing this quarterback competition, I'm sorry, that's where you lose me. Like that's where you can't tell me like just be optimistic, just have fun, don't have any qualms about embracing this stuff. And it's like, well, That is kind of where I do have my issue, especially in a division where Aaron Rodgers is going to retire after the year and get fitted for a gold jacket. Joe Burrow's really good, and he's been to a Super Bowl. And Lamar Jackson has multiple MVP trophies on his mantle. Like, in this division, I do kind of have a little bit of an issue with just lackadaisically throwing my arm around yet another quarterback competition when that's all we ever have when it comes to the Browns.
Look, I think there are exciting players, but that's standard. Every NFL team has a young, exciting. The terrible Browns, 1-31. We had Myles Garrett on the team. Like, there were
a young David Njoku,
yeah,
a young Jabril Peppers.
Yes. So every team in the league, that's not the bar. That's easy. Every team gets how many draft picks every year, and the NFL, it's not like the NBA where there can only be so many good players, right? Like the reason people don't even watch the second round of the NBA draft. In the NFL, you can get guys in the last round that can start day one in the NFL and make plays. Like, we see that time and time again. So I don't think they deserve an award for, hey, we have some young, exciting players. Welcome to the NFL. The difference is your young, exciting players don't win and haven't won. And maybe they can win this year if everything goes their way. I brought up last year the Colts example. I brought up the New England Patriots go to the Super Bowl just a year removed from being a total train wreck, and then Seattle winning the whole damn thing with Sam Darnold. Okay, so there are ways in the NFL you can do it, but I'm also not going to lie. Like, I'm not going to just say because I'm doing a show in Cleveland, then we're talking to Cleveland fans, and I want to be liked, so I want to say positive things so people get off my back and don't challenge me on social media. Let's be fair. If the Browns were, let's say, in Atlanta, right? What would we in Cleveland be saying about that team? We'd be saying they're one of the worst teams in the league.
You used the word snarky to describe like how we've discussed this quarterback situation. I think in 31 other NFL cities, if you ask them, what do you think about the Browns quarterback situation? You'd get a snarky response. It's kind of it's a humorous situation that we have going on right now, that you have this polarizing 5th round pick that seemingly everybody wants to start except the organization, who might go back to the estranged Deshaun Watson, who hasn't been good in 6 years.
So I bring it back to that we understand this could be a tumultuous transition to what Mary Kay is a believer that hey, they could be putting the pieces together, that it's not a rebuild. Okay, then why, when I say tonally, when I hear the way people talk about these teams, and this isn't just about Nick, I hear it all over town. Mm-hmm. The Cavs, unserious basketball team. The Guardians, unserious, even though quite literally around Major League Baseball they are considered one of the best programs going, one of the best clubhouses going, one of the best management teams going. And yet the Browns, I'm supposed to be positive about. Who's the unserious team?
And just blindly trust. Not be positive, like just blindly trust that they're going to figure it out. Like, if anything, and I know it might feel unpopular because of how bad the offense is for the Guardians right now, or how bad you might feel about the Cavs right now because they missed out on landing the greatest basketball player of all time, even though they were the only team that met with them. I'd put more trust into what Antonetti and Chernoff have cooking, because I've seen them turn water into wine before over in that ballpark. I've seen the Cavs deliver a championship in my lifetime. Like, the 1999 Browns have given us Pittsburgh during the pandemic.
And for everybody that wants to crush Kobe Altman right now, and look, there are moves that I would have done differently. I have been critical at times, but the team didn't just get to, 60, how many wins 2 years ago, and last year, Eastern Conference Finals. They didn't get there by luck, right? They didn't just win the lottery to get those things.
It was a build.
Right? There was a build, there were moves, there were bold moves, there was development, and they just weren't gifted all these players from other bad GMs around the league. Guardians, they don't win every year just because it's the bad division. Like, there's a build there. There are things we'd like to see, better development with the lineup and the hitters, but there's obviously a real strategy.
Yeah,
that
and a competitive edge with starting pitching, and the way that
the lack of money,
the way that they sell on these guys that they can't afford to pay, and get back a huge pool of prospects, and then we're all really sad for a couple of months, and then these prospects slowly start to hit, and then we're back in the playoffs, and we feel a lot better.
Guess what? That earns credit.
Right.
You don't just give credit. So no, I'm not just going to be positive about the Browns. They have to earn that. You know, they have to earn it. They haven't earned it. So I don't know why I just have to make everybody's sensibilities feel better, and just so you get rid of the snark in your life, have to be positive. I will never understand that. That is not my job. And by the way, I don't think it's the hardworking fans and season ticket holders who I can't believe they still even have one season ticket holder. Like, if you really take the logic, I can't believe that anybody forks over the money every year when the bill comes. Put your deposit down in the following year. Like, yeah, they have to depend on you. They need you more than you need them. And somehow, some way, the fans, even in this economy, throw their hard-earned money year after year towards the Browns. I think they're allowed to be snarky. I think they're allowed to be negative when this has been the state of affairs with the football team.
Especially in a sport where, like, it's supposed to be easy to get off the mat. And, like, that's the other thing when we start comparing baseball. It's tough because of the payrolls. When we start looking at basketball, if you don't have a Victor Wembanyama or a Donovan Mitchell or a Jalen Brunson, kind of hard to win in the NBA. We learned that during the Sexton Garland years. We learned that when we lost LeBron the first time, during the Kyrie's, early years in Cleveland, just how difficult it is to win if you don't have one of those game-changing players.
But not in this sport.
Not in football.
Not
You're
in this
supposed
sport.
to be able to get off the mat quick because you get 7 draft picks, because these guys can be impactful players, whether they're in round 1, whether they're in round 5. You could find guys that make an impact.
You know how I know this? You know how I know you're right? Houston Texans have made the playoffs 9 times in the last 15, 16 years. 9 times. The Houston Texans. They're not good. They've never been that good. They haven't had great quarterback play. I thought C.J. Stroud might be on the verge. Nope. They haven't had any of that. They've been able to get to the playoffs. They have a
process.
Yeah. What do the Browns do? And by the way, they've had horrific bungling management situations. Remember the preacher, the Jack Easterby, or whatever the hell his name is? Remember how that went south? Yet they make the playoffs. Like, come on, guys. Like that. You know what? What would we be saying if we had the Houston Texans? We'd probably be bored with the winning by now. We'd probably be bored with it like they were in Pittsburgh. 216-474-0092. Let's go to the phones. Nicholas in Chardon. Next up on the Fan. How are you, Nick?
Good there, Anthony. I'm optimistic because Todd Monken has shown his mettle in the collegiate and in the professional level. Granted, he's not been a head coach, but where he's been a winner. And just having that mindset in the locker room, just having that mindset in the front office, can really, I think, spur this team on to better things.
God willing. Thank you for the phone call. That's my takeaway. Rob in Chagrin Falls, go ahead.
Hey, fellas, far be it from me to be positive about the Browns. A few winning seasons over the last 35 years is hardly anything to get past, but I do want to point out one good thing versus last year that you might want to just keep in the back of your mind going forward is a year ago, Stefanski had Shedeur Sanders throwing balls to like ball boys. And this year he's working with the first team. So I don't know if the kid is going to be good or bad or whatever. I just know that there's no way if you're throwing balls to the ball boys, you could possibly be good. And I don't think anybody went into a pro football game less prepared than that kid did last year.
Well, Dorian Thompson-Robinson would give him a run for the money.
With about a half-hour heads up, hey, kid, you got the Ravens today.
Yeah, and you're right. I'm not going to deny, that was a horrific spot. I also want to be fair. First of all, how do we know that it was Kevin Stefanski? That had nothing to do with Andrew Berry. I mean,
we don't know.
He had 4 quarterbacks in there.
It's irrelevant, but I just want to put out there that trying to draw a conclusion from what Shedeur did last year to what he could do this year, I mean, it was completely unfair and even borderline unprofessional how the team dealt with him last year. And this year they're treating him like an actual professional. And I think, and he seems, and even with the way they treated him last year, the kid showed glimmers of being able to win games.
I gave him that. Yeah.
So am I optimistic? No. But I am interested to see what the kid could do with some actual preparation because he showed glimmers even though they basically stood on the back of his neck last year and gave him no chance at all. And he still actually, he didn't embarrass himself. So
all right, Rob.
I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, thank you for the call. I actually don't disagree
Tony, it feels
with much
like,
of what he said.
It feels like a lot of the Browns' optimism is rooted in the young players, but it's also rooted in Shedeur Sanders. And I worry that if Shedeur Sanders is not named the starting quarterback of this competition, some of that optimism might get parked.
All right. When we come back, we'll wrap that up. Plus, a brewing controversy in one of the sports. And we've got our private eye on the case. That's next. It involves gambling right here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Brad Evans.
Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
This is the only radio station in town that can deliver the play-by-play of the Hall of Fame game and the Super Bowl. The radio home of the NFL in Cleveland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
All sorts of social media reaction brought to you by Scheibe Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. A lot of comments coming in about the double standard that we may have in this sports town. Positive for the bad team, yet we hammer the good teams. Really, it's just about expectations, right?
I also wonder if a piece of it, too, is like the good teams, like you want to get that championship so bad, and you know that the Cavs and Guardians are probably closer than that to the Browns, so it's easier to be mad at them about things. Because It's like, man, you're right there. Like, just go win us another one. I think that's a piece of it,
Which is like the hardest thing in the world to do.
Yeah, very hard. Hey, how about this? In most sports, especially the three popular American ones that we talk about, there's only one champion at the end of each year.
There is only one. Well, now we have an in-season tournament in the NBA, so you could have another champion there. But, LeBron James, it was easy for him to get to the finals, but we saw how hard it was to win the championship. So it sounds like when people are like, Cavs, just get to the NBA finals, go win a championship. It's like, oh, yeah, you're remembering the years and the era when LeBron was just running roughshod and scoring 30 a game and doing it every game. Like, Donovan Mitchell's really good.
Yeah, but he's not LeBron.
He's not LeBron.
I had this thought a ton during LeBron watch because there were so many people over really the last year where I've been pounding this drum and I was trying to get LeBron back to Cleveland. I think a lot of Clevelanders don't fully grasp, even still, that if you don't believe LeBron's the greatest of all time, that's fine. That this is the greatest player of a generation, though. I think there's a lot of people that, like, just because we've had a front row seat to it, have taken it for granted and how easy it was, I'm doing easy in air quotes for the YouTube audience, it was for him to get to those 4 straight championships. Maybe it's made people a little entitled, when you get to the postseason in baseball or basketball, because the Guardians are getting there with that kind of similar regularity, even though it's just the playoffs. See, I even just did it right there. Just the playoffs and not the World Series.
And look, these leagues have expanded their playoff fields. So you got to keep that in mind. And, in Pittsburgh, we talk about this all the time because we listen up there. We know the hosts. We hate the fans. We hate the hosts. But Ken talks about all the time, like, making the playoffs, they do not care anymore in Pittsburgh. They officially do not care.
They want to win a game. They want to win a playoff game so bad. And it eludes them, and it drives those people crazy.
That reaction coming in. Craig Hoffman says, every season presents new opportunities. Some teams year after year go from worst to first. Why not the Browns? And, yeah, that is the NFL, but that's what we said. So frustrating. Probably why we're so negative at times about the Browns is because they're not that team.
Yeah, I've been playing that game. We've been playing that game for a long time. Like, I remember we were doing this the other day when LeBron left Cleveland and stuff with my dad. My dad would tell me throughout middle school, and the Browns weren't very good, that every year in the NFL, there's a surprise team. One year, it's going to be us. That's what he would say. There's a surprise team every year. And he would say the year prior surprise team. Last year, nobody thought the Oakland Raiders were going to do what they did. Surprise team came out of nowhere. This year, it could be us. Again, I've spent so many years buying into that fairy tale. At some point now, you got to earn my trust back a little bit.
That's right. You got to earn it. Can't just get it. Not just giving it away, afternoon show. We got to earn it. Meanwhile, they're trying to earn some money, some hard-earned money, but doing it in a way that apparently you're really not allowed to. That league would be the WNBA and a brewing controversy involving gambling. But, as always, I don't have a lot of time for some of this with Browns camp starting, with me contacting sources within the Cavs and within the NBA, trying to figure that out, watching the Guardians win the Ohio Cup. Shout out to Manzardo. But I know somebody who has the time to do it. That would be Private Eye John. How you doing, John?
We're doing good here, guys.
All right, tell us about the latest controversy in the WNBA, because I saw this Thanks to Clay Travis. As you guys know, I am
You're a big follower of him.
Big follower of Clay. Enjoy his radio show and his daily musings and his culture wars. Go ahead, John. What do you have on the latest gambling controversy in sports?
We've gone back and forth on gambling in this show, but the WNBA, they have a scandal on their hands, and I had to make sure this had never happened before. There's never really been a WNBA gambling scandal until now. So yesterday, the WNBA's official social media posted a video highlighting a friendly wager between Angel Reese of the Atlanta Dream and Paige Beckers of the Dallas Wings. This happened over All-Star Weekend, and this video was deleted within hours. They made a $400 bet on the Wings Dream game that happened last night in Dallas, and the Wings led by 12 heading into the fourth quarter of that game. The Dream outscored Dallas 30-17 in the fourth quarter to win 82-81. By the way, Angel Reese had 22 points and 12 me-bounds. Here is her after the game.
What did you say?
She had 12 me-bounds.
What did you say?
Me-bounds.
Okay. Is that only a stat that we keep track for her?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Well, here's what she said after the game.
Yeah, I'll be requesting my Apple Pay after this.
The league deleted that original post so quickly. I can't believe Angel Reese even brought that up in a press conference. Section 5C of the CBA says no WNBA player can wager money or anything of value on the outcome, score, or any aspect of league competition. Penalties for violation can include a fine, suspension,
And
or
death.
outright dismissal.
Let me ask you this. First of all, can you do a player prop on her knee bounds?
You probably can.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Outright dismissal, you said, John?
So now they're just going to get rid of
Paige Beckers and Angel Reese, two of the brightest stars in the game.
Can you imagine? I mean, this is kind of the same thing that Ken was talking about with Ohtani.
Yes, and maybe what we were talking about with Brendan Sorsby. All right, here's the thing. I told you guys a couple weeks ago, and you scoffed, that I think if you allowed the players to gamble and it was transparent and there was real oversight over it and it was out in the open and it's something we could all talk about on the radio, I think it could be very cool. And in a league like the WNBA, if you're telling me they are putting their hard-earned money on the line, now you said this was a $400 bet.
There's a video, Tone, of them like exchanging, like messing around with $100 bills, saying that that's what's going on the line for this upcoming matchup.
Now I'm in. If you tell me before a game that like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have a real bet, and what, $400 here. Now, I did the math. Well, ChatGPT did the math. Now, it was outdated information on the old CBA, but that would be the equivalent of Donovan Mitchell wagering $228,000 on the game if you went by the salaries. Now, there's been a bump thanks to the new TV deal in the WNBA, so now it would be the equivalent of $30,000 of Donovan Mitchell's money
it's a big bet.
if he were to wager. And that would be a big bet. But you're telling me that you wouldn't, if the stakes were legitimately there, that wouldn't make you want to go watch a WNBA game if you knew that kind of money, that kind of scratch was on the line.
It's a little promo work, right? Like that, combat sports, that's a thing. You want to be the fight of the night. You want to get that bonus, so people are tuned in to see if these guys go the extra mile for that dollar amount. In this realm, $400 bet, who's going to win it? I don't know how much intrigue would really be there. I hate to pour cold water on that.
Remember, they tried to do this with the skins game for golf. Because, nobody gambles like the PGA golfers. I don't even think you need to put a reckless speculation. Like Phil Mickelson, random tournament.
Right?
Like, dude, they have so much money. They just don't tell you about it because that would be against their rules. Let's legalize it. Let's go. We've already gone this far. Let's keep it going. Anyway, thanks, Padone. Thanks, Owen. Thanks, John. Joey in the back. Mary Kay Cabot of the Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com. Baskin and Phelps, we heard their pre-show meeting moments ago. On the microphone, off mic. They're coming up next, and they have a vicious takedown of Paige Beckers over this betting scandal. Wait till you hear what Baskin has to say. Is he here today?
I'm sure he is.
That's coming up next on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
They read, they sing, and they dance. Always take life as a risk or a chance. This is the end of my silly little rap. thank you for paying attention and making sure that you're not booing, but you clap.
Hey, sounds good.
Where's your entourage now?
Cool.